and welcome to our 11th episode of Gargoyles Reawakening. As always, I am Carol, known as Guardian on the internet. I am joined by Lisa, also known as Talia Levid on DeviantArt.
Hi, everybody.
We are also joined by Corel, also known as Kodalea on DeviantArt.
Hey, hi, everybody.
And just like last time, he's been a mainstay of the fandom since like forever. We have with us today Greg Bishansky.
Hi.
Hi, Greg.
Good to have you with us, my friend.
Yep, welcome to our show.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're very happy to have you here. Now, quick news as usual. Spirits of Ash and Foam is out. Go buy it. You need to go buy it. It's good.
I have my copy. I haven't finished reading it yet. I feel bad. Sorry,
I haven't started it, so you're in a better shape than I am.
Well,
I read the first, but I didn't start the second one.
We suck.
I know. We're terrible. We're terrible fans. We should be shunned.
No, I'm a terrible fan. If we're one-upping each other, I haven't even read the first book yet.
I haven't either.
Okay. And I still owe people their books. I'm so sorry.
But we do have them.
I was going to say, I almost think I was one of those people, and then I bought a copy at Convergence because I wanted it autographed.
So you'll have two copies that are autographed.
No, and then I bought a copy from Amazon, and it arrived after Convergence. I was so pissed at Amazon.
Yeah,
so
Greg, Greg, if you're listening, by the time this podcast is out, I will have finished the book.
Yes, there we go. Nice. Speed reading. I don't need to work. I can just read at my desk. They don't care.
Okay, that works too. I can read while I work on copies. And of course, Season 2, Volume 2 is available. There's a possibility that it may become a bit more readily available than it has been in the past. Best way to do this, call Disney Store, however
it's on Disney Store.
Oh, that's right, it is. So, it's a bit more readily
available
now.
DisneyStore.com. They say there's a rumor it might be in stores in January, but I have no idea if that's true or not, so let's not present that as news. I mean, it's a possibility, guys, a possibility. I hope it's true.
Mm-hmm. But it's definitely on the website because I was searching for Halloween costumes, and hope above hope, I was looking for a Gargoyles one, and the movies came up. So,
hey, works for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's, but those of you asking about Goliath Chronicles on DVD, I shall quote Greg Wiseman on Twitter: "Don't know, don't care, not canon."
And we wholeheartedly agree.
Yes.
We do.
Yeah.
At least you didn't say spoiler request. No comment.
He said it at a convention a few times.
He did. I was proud of him. When I asked a question, I was waiting for it, but he actually answered me, and then he was like, I don't want to give much away. But he didn't say it, so.
Yeah.
So thank you, Greg. I appreciated your answer. I don't think we have much news. The Disney Forever, or the Disney Afternoon Forever, they're still planning something for the Gargoyles anniversary, but I haven't heard anything recent. Have you guys?
Well, I do know there's going to be a Gargoyles 20th anniversary panel at Long Beach Comic Con, which Greg Wiseman's going to be at, and he hinted at a few other guests. We'll see. I know he's also going to be doing Spectacular Spider-Man, Young Justice, and Reign of the Ghosts panels there.
Oh, awesome. Just like at Convergence.
Uh-huh.
And there's the thing on the blog, the review on the episode that, Greg, you gave the links on the Facebook groups.
Oh, yeah, the AV Club has been reviewing Gargoyles.
Yeah.
Which is really
those
cool.
are some fantastic reviews. If you're looking for some good, in-depth, intellectual reviews on the show we all know and love, check out the AV Club. Is it with Oh My Disney?
No, it's not. I don't know. Just look up Gargoyles on AV Club. But I remember a few people got a little bit upset when they were a bit hard on Enter Macbeth, and I like Enter Macbeth too. But out of the episodes of season 1, it's the weak link. It really is.
I agree. I never thought about it until I read their review, because to me it's just one of the episodes that I know and love. But truthfully, if you read what they say or listen to them, it's wrong. True. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it really is the weak link, so I'm sorry. I love Enter Macbeth, but
I do
too.
And what can I say? John Rhys Davies, man. This was back in the day when I loved sliders and stuff, and, go Indiana Jones, so.
He delivers. We're going to be talking about, not John Rhys Davies, but we're going to be talking about Macbeth here in a little while.
Excellent.
Yes. All right, well, I think that wraps it up for the news. We are ready to move on to our roar. You want to roar for us, Carol?
I'd be happy to.
Yes. Ooh, you even had the echo again.
Yeah.
Nice.
She's doing great.
Yeah.
I have a sore throat. I can't do that right now.
Me neither.
I can't do it in general. Well, on today's Roar, I'm very happy that we are going to be joined by Greg Bishansky. Today, we decided to do some episode reviews. We've been kind of toying back and forth with some ideas for the Roar, and we settled on City of Stone, especially when we found out they were Greg's favorite episodes. So we are going to... I mean, there's a lot of material to cover, but we're going to try to, summarize and analyze and hopefully, make the most out of these episodes, because to me, these are such vital episodes to our story arc. And I actually read on the Garg Wiki when I was doing some research last night that they almost got canned. So
that's not quite true. But
it's not. Oh, okay, good. I'm glad you clarified that, because truthfully, I think Gargoyles would be, kind of a sadder story arc without them. I really enjoy these episodes.
What happened was it was almost a direct-to-video.
A direct-to-video
release.
Yeah.
But Gary Kreisel felt a direct-to-video release should focus on the heroes more than the villains, and he was correct about that. But he had no problem allowing them to adapt it into the series. So it was not almost canned. It was just.
If anything, I say this is a fantastic look into Damona's motivations and just proof that she's not the two-dimensional mustache-twirling villain that we've seen in other shows.
Thank God.
Thank God.
Yes, thank God indeed.
Well, to begin, in the very first episode, we start off with a standoff between a group of terrorists. Elisa and Matt and a large number of the NYPD are in the standoff, and they're holding Margot, Brendan, and 3 little girls hostage. The 3 little girls are, of course, the Weird Sisters, and when we finally see our heroes come in, only the clan can see them. The 3 girls commend the Gargoyles on the rescue and remind Goliath that if he forgets that every life is precious, then he'll become just like her. Goliath interprets this to mean the lead terrorist, but the sisters correct him. They aren't referring to that terrorist, but to one much closer to him, and that, of course, is Damona. And so our story begins. I just want to say... Oh, go ahead.
A bit of a note of trivia that terrorist was supposed to come back in Bad Guys one day.
Was she?
Interesting.
And Greg would have revealed what her motivation and her cause was.
That would have been interesting, because
neat.
Truthfully, I don't have any idea what she was going for in that bank. I don't think she was an eco-terrorist. I don't know.
I've had some ideas about her, but
if I recall correctly, this was back in the 90s. There were a slew of bank robberies in the Los Angeles area, and I wonder if maybe Greg Weisman pulled from that. I'm just kind of pulling out of my rear here. I could be completely mistaken.
I think the movie Heat was based on those.
Oh
yeah? Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yeah, with Pacino and De Niro, that movie. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I don't know if maybe Greg was pulling, to quote Law and Order, ripped from the headlines or anything, but that's my theory.
I think he was going for a bit of a Damona metaphor there, but.
Gotcha. You would probably know better than I.
I mean, you don't really need to read recent news to read up on bank robberies.
That's true.
They're as old as the genre. As old as the genre.
Yeah.
Older than Bonnie and Clyde, even.
Yeah.
What I like about this, it's hard to review it because there's so much between the past and with the present. But I really feel like these were the episodes that fans were waiting for. And when I saw that they were going to be a direct-to-release video, I thought that was kind of a cool concept, but I totally get, they didn't focus on the heroes. They really don't. But with the mirror and, the eye of the beholder, to me, these feel like the episodes that fans were waiting for. We finally learn about Damona's true backstory, how she survived the massacre, how she survived all the centuries, and then how she and Macbeth have crossed paths over the years, and how they have they have that connection.
Vows is also a big piece of the puzzle. It comes right before this because we find out that Damona was terrified by her future self into thinking this massacre was coming, and despite what Goliath told her, she kept looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Which is very sad and horrible because even as humans, when you know something is coming and you try to prevent it, you can't prevent it.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but there's a lot of... I mean, I've got a debate of people like, Demona used to be good. I'm like, was she ever really that good? I mean, she wasn't always the evil supervillain we know, but even the earliest we've seen her, chronological-wise, she's still willing to steal for and lie for the Archmage.
Well, I was going to say, she was still very power-hungry. I mean, she chose Goliath as her mate, and I always speculate, did she truly love him, or did she see him as the second in command?
Both. I think it's both. I think she did love him at one point. I mean, and I think a part of her still does, which is why she's kind of this psycho ex-girlfriend at the moment. Also,
agreed.
I agree with that. Well, and I think that's why she falls for Thalog too, because it's pretty much Goliath, but the way she wants Goliath to be.
The way she thinks she wants.
That's true. That's true.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure Thalog is a smart enough guy to know this. Also, it wasn't really him that it was about either. So there's a lot more about Sanctuary than if you look past the surface, but we're talking about City of Stone.
Oh, we could talk about all of them, couldn't we? I mean,
we can.
The power of continuity. I'm going to summarize a little bit again, just because there are so many flashbacks in this one. But, each episode does weave between past and present, and each event plays such an important role. I love how they did that. But the first flashback that we see after the terrace, we go to the night before the massacre, and we actually learn more details between the bargain, or we learn more details to the bargain between the captain and Demona.
And Hakon was a part of this.
And Hakon, also. Yeah, that's true. I always forget he's involved, and then it's like, yeah, he was a key player too. Mm-hmm. And I think this kind of ties back into what you were saying, Greg, about was she really ever good, or was she always, looking for that ulterior motive? Because she had the chance to warn the clan. I mean, you even see her approaching, at the time, Othello and Desdemona, and she's about to warn them, and then she sees the Vikings get into position, and she just changes her mind and saves herself.
At the end of the day, she was willing to put her clan's lives in the captain's hands, but not her own.
But not her own. That says a lot about her. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, I was watching this with my husband last night, and he even said, what did she think was going to happen? And I said, well, I think that's what she thought was going to happen. But she was hoping slightly that her clan would be safe, but she knew enough to protect herself.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, oh, go ahead.
Which is why these people would say, oh, she's not responsible for the massacre. Drive me nuts. It couldn't have happened without her. She could have saved them at any time. She was second in command. She could have easily said, I've just received information. We have to get out of here.
You have to go.
Right.
Yep. We have to follow Goliath. Let's go.
And they would have listened to her because she's the second.
Second in command.
Granted, she would have had to answer some very difficult questions later, but she's I'm going to say it, pardon my French, she's a very good bullshitter. I think she could have talked her way out.
I think she could have managed it. And, Goliath is the type who sees what he wants to see sometimes.
Especially in regards to her.
Especially in regards to Demona.
Especially during that time frame.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think she would have had a cast of doubt on her, but I don't think anyone would have questioned her.
I think some would have suspected her, but you'll never know.
Right.
Right. And, of course, Goliath would have eventually, stamped out any, what's the word I'm looking for?
Talk.
Yeah, for lack of a better term, amongst anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Although it certainly suggests the question to me, if things had gone that way, what would their relationship have become? Because now, technically the clan is safe, the castle's been routed. It's a fantastic,
Well, Gargoyles mate for life, and as long as she's not trying to outright murder him with a bazooka, I think they would have stayed together, because divorce is practically unheard of among gargoyles. I mean,
right.
I know that's another bit of a misconception, but to be fair, that's also kind of the show's fault, because the main mating that we've seen between gargoyles on the show is Goliath and Demona, and they are divorced, and they are that one exception to the rule.
They are.
Right.
I read one time that the mating can come to an end if both pairs mutually agree. And maybe they didn't quite mutually agree, but I'm pretty sure that when you try to kill one, it's agreed that it's over. So
I haven't read that. I mean, it could be out there, but I tend to think that they're just wired to mate for life.
I think so too.
This is an Ask Greg question. It's not an Ask Greg Bishansky question.
Spoiler request, no comment?
Yeah.
No, he'll answer that one.
Oh, okay.
He probably did, and we just didn't pull it up on the Ask Greg.
Or he answered it at a convention and it's not on there.
Right.
To the archives!
But spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the show, she glides to the beach below and waits for sunrise. And then, of course, at sunset, when she awakens, she returns to the eerily quiet castle and discovers the massacre. And so that, to me, that's almost the first moment where she becomes a little bit unhinged. You see her walking around, she's picking up some of the pieces of her rookery siblings, and then she leaves again. The guilt is starting to get to her. And she comes back thinking Goliath will be overjoyed to see her. She comes back and he's stone. And this is kind of the turning point.
Her iconic line, the line that sums her up. Who wants to say it?
What have they done to you? And yes.
Yeah.
And Marina says it so much more eloquently, but but I mean that sums her up in a nutshell.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's just, if this had been like a prose novel, the amount of writing that you could have between what have I, ellipses, what have they done to you, I mean, you could just fill pages of that, I would say, if you were a talented writer, which I wouldn't argue that I am.
I want to be.
Yeah, I would like to be, but
I'm working on that. I'm trying.
You guys have probably got it better than I do.
I don't know. I haven't published anything on mine. Like, I haven't even put it out on the internet, except for one thing. So, I don't know. But this is where she actually becomes the Demona that we know. You actually see those characteristics that we've been waiting for. Before she was Angel of the Night, now she's not.
I don't think she's quite there yet. She's much closer, but she's not genocidal yet. I mean, it wouldn't even occur to her at this point. But
but it certainly was a step in that direction.
It was step. It was a big step. Yeah, the biggest step, actually.
Yeah.
Even bigger than what's coming later.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Well, the first step is always the most important, I would argue.
Yeah.
Even if it's in the wrong direction.
Yes. In any direction, it's the most important.
And then we go back to present day.
No, we don't go back to present day.
Oh, we don't yet.
Something else happens. There's a little trip to a barn. She goes to a barn.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Gilcum Gain. That's right. My notes.
Oh, my face! I'm sorry. I recited that atrociously.
Yeah, who the comics later revealed, and this is historically accurate, was Macbeth's cousin.
Ooh!
That's right.
Because his father was apparently the older brother of Macbeth's father, but he was illegitimate.
Oh.
Which also explains why he sided with Constantine later in issues 10, 11, and 12 of the comic book, which are available on Clan Building Volume 2, so go to Amazon and buy it.
Yes. That's right. She goes to the barn, and this is where she first encounters young Gilcum Gain, and he's very unsuspecting. He's going out to do his chores. He comes across a rogue gargoyle, and she slashes his face.
And then she walks away eating apples.
And then she's totally cool with it. Yep. All in a day's work.
And she's creating her nemesis.
Yes.
To quote the gamer in me, get wrecked, Gilcum Gain. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself.
I don't know what that reference is. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
One day I will learn this gaming that you do. But that's right. She actually encounters Gilcum Gain, and he. I know it's touched more in Hunter's Moon, but he vows right then and there that he will not forget that moment. And
yo, wee babe, to cried a few scratches.
she was a monster. Yeah. And so begins the birth of the hunter.
Well, there's a few more steps. I mean,
there are.
I mean, especially in the comic, Constantine likes to look at the scars, gives himself that look, and so they kind of model things after each other, which Greg did later to explain why no one suspected Gilcomgain of being the hunter because he was supposed to wear that symbol. But
well, we were joking about that last night. It's like the whole Ariel and Eric thing. Like, I saved your life. You saw my face. How do you not know who I am? And then with Gilcomgain, I'm just wearing a mask with the scars that match my face. How do you not suspect? But yeah, the comic books actually touch on that quite well. But yeah, there are a few steps. I feel like it's so hard to cross over with Hunter Moon in the comics with these flashbacks because they all tie in together.
A lot of them are also ties into the real history, which will be discussed throughout these episodes. So, but we're flashing back to fast forward into the present.
We are. And this is where we see Demona arriving at Pack Media Studios with a spell that she's presenting to Xanatos and Owen. She's convincing them that this is how she has survived all these centuries. And truthfully, I think this is the first glimpse where we see Xanatos' real ambitions toward immortality.
It is.
He's very interested in this because he wants to live forever. He wants his empire to live forever. This desire isn't fully revealed until the price, and it's not accomplished until the birth of Alex. But it's an interesting theme within the show because Xanatos wants this immortality so bad, and then he's dealing with these two immortals who already have gained what he wants, and they're both dealing with it in their own way. Like, I think Demona is perfectly fine being immortal, but then you see Macbeth, and he's just ready to be done.
It also explains Xanatos' motivations to join the Illuminati because their leaders are immortal also.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, plus when you think about it... Pardon me.
That's okay.
When you think about it, in terms of the spell that reversed Demona's aging and accelerated Macbeth's aging, he's dealing with it, but, he got the raw end of the deal, I would argue.
He made the most of it. He's still really badass. He can kick all our asses.
Yeah.
That's very true. So he's aged very well.
Yeah, he's only about 52 permanently, so it's not that bad.
Okay, well, there you go.
And I say that because I'm less than 20 years away from that myself.
Me too.
Oh my, yeah. I don't feel old at all.
But also one thing about this scene, and this is something that people have been talking about especially recently,
Yes.
Xanatos is bad at math. 1 minute of life from 8 million people will add up, if you split between each other, it adds up to maybe 20 years at most each. I mean, I'm not going to say Xanatos is bad at math, but the writers should have done their math better. An hour a day, I mean. An hour a day, I mean. A year.
Oh, the show's still pretty good.
Yeah, that night. No, it is. I'm not complaining. I love Xanatos. A lot of people say Thalog is Xanatos' biggest mistake, and in the long run, maybe he will be, but I would argue putting Demona on the air without having that piece of parchment from the Grimorum translated and looked over by Owen or somebody first.
Yeah.
But, Xanatos has plan B, so it's all cool.
Yeah, that, and if I'm Demona, I'm not going to let a valuable magic spell out of my hands either, so...
No.
Then again, I asked Greg about this once, and he said he really underestimated her. He's got a very low opinion of fanatics, and he honestly didn't think that she was that big of a threat. I mean, even though she would speak openly about the strength of humanity in front of him in Awakening Part 5, he did not take that seriously as a threat. Yeah, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Come on, what are you going to do? I mean, if you stop and think about it, she's really just one gargoyle. I mean, if someone's saying that, even if they've got a lot of guns and a few magic tricks, they're not going to think they can pull off something like this.
They can pull off something like
that. No, not someone and I would consider Xanatos arrogant.
Oh, he is.
He is. Yeah.
And for someone as arrogant as Xanatos, really, come on, come at me, brah, or come at me, sis. Not in so many words. He has a far more developed vocabulary than I do.
I don't know. I think it would be worth a lot of money to hear Xanatos say, "Come at me, brah."
Well, run into Jonathan Frakes at a convention and
I should and see if he'll say it. I also like how we get our first hint that Owen is Puck, where she ties him up and calls him their tricky one.
And that's an iron cable.
Yeah, it's iron cable, so she knew what she was doing.
And that totally went over my head when I first saw it.
It went over all of our heads.
It went over everyone's. Well, when I first saw it, it went over my head that only the clan could see the little girls, the weird sisters as little girls at first. But then, of course, when they're talking and then Margot and Brendan are having their neurotic breakdown, we didn't see anybody, then, of course, it makes sense. But right away, you think that everybody can see these three.
Right.
But then, of course, we come to the end of the episode. I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit.
Skipping ahead a lot.
I know. It's so hard because it's like you want to summarize everything.
I mean, okay, they cast a spell. The Weird Sisters try to ally an aged Demona with Macbeth. Gilcomgain kills Findlay, Macbeth's father, presents the sigil of Murray to Duncan, gets promoted to become the steward of Murray, and everyone turns to stone, and Xanatos' helicopter nearly crashes with a stone fox, flying it. There.
And the clan awakened to a stony Lisa.
The nose is all wrong.
So then part 2 begins. We actually see the true effects of Demona's spell. Xanatos lands safely because he's MacGyver in a helicopter, apparently.
Yep.
And he knew how to land it. We do see a touching moment where he was actually concerned that Fox would be damaged. And then he, of course, heads to Pack Media Studios.
With a big gun.
Demona's spell, of course, is in full effect, and we actually do see that. She's running around smashing people with incredible glee, and we see that she herself is actually being hunted, which, of course, we recognize as Macbeth because...
I love that scene, and to this day I'm still kind of shocked, even though they're statues, they've managed to get that on the air. She's murdering people on screen, and Greg has this note that they're told, okay, you can blow up one of the statues, and no, I don't want you to blow up the Nature and Bellow said, don't blow up the statue. It's okay if she shoots the bags out of her hands. The arms came off in that scene, and to this day, Greg still tells us, I'm wondering, what the hell happened to that one Sunrise?
But Sunrise, I mean...
I want to know.
Wouldn't it have been better if Demona had just finished the job? I don't know.
Well, apparently Greg, when Adrian Bellow suggested that, Greg described it as, well, Frank and I, as the bloodthirsty people we are, immediately got behind this idea.
Yeah.
And then she blew up Brendan and Margot's lookalikes, because Brendan and Margot aren't dead, so that
they're not.
Have been them.
Yep.
Well, Greg insisted to say that woman was a brunette, and that guy was Marina DePay. That's Margot's twin sister.
If I was Margot's sister, I wouldn't want to look like her either, even if I was the twin. And then we go back to the clock tower, and Goliath and the Manhattan clan are pondering over the Elisa statue, and they go out to try to find clues. So this, of course, brings us to the home of Jeffrey Robbins, and he is blind, so he was not affected by the spell. So he gives them their first, not even a clue. He's just like, check out the TV. And they see the Demona broadcast, so they know what they have to do. They have to stop Demona. And so they do go to get Broadway. They left Broadway and Bronx at the clock tower. I almost said the castle, but at the clock tower. And they head over to Pack Media Studios. And while they're doing that... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, not quite yet. Getting into those, but there's a big moment after the flashback where Goliath ponders, do I need to kill her?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they don't head to Pack Media Studios right away. They actually follow a trail of dead bodies to Pack Media Studios.
Oh.
If you stop and think about it that way, which is actually what they did.
That would have been...
Yeah, that's very true.
Follow the trail of corpses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a kid's show.
Hello, Disney. Yeah, that's true. They follow the trail to Pack Media Studios. They've missed Demona, of course, but Xanatos is there. And this, of course, brings us to more flashback segments, but they do form an alliance in this episode to save the residents of Manhattan and to stop Demona. In the flashbacks, though, we see more of Macbeth's story, I feel, in this one. It starts out with Macbeth speaking with Bodhi, which is Gruach's father. He has been ordered by King Duncan to marry Gruach to Gilcomgain.
Prince Duncan, he's not king yet.
Oh, yeah, you're right, he's prince. And then, to me, it just kills me how Duncan, at every turn, he just tries to make Macbeth's life miserable. And I'm sure this follows more into the history. I didn't do my research as well as I should have. But I really do think that these two opposed each other consistently. Historically, not in the Shakespeare play.
Well, Duncan was the son of... Duncan and Macbeth were both the grandson of the current king, Mayo Calvin, who we meet in Avalon Part 1 and is in the last 3 issues of the comic book. And he overthrew Kenneth III after they both worked together to overthrow Constantine. And Duncan was constantly paranoid that Macbeth was plotting to seize his throne, because that's the sort of thing Duncan himself would do. And Gruach was the daughter of Bodhi, who was the son of Kenneth III, who obviously was such a coward he didn't even contest his own claim to the throne, because Bodhi could have been king, but Gruach is a powerful political prize, so a marriage between her and Macbeth would be a powerful symbol.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand Duncan's motivations for doing this.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And truthfully, I should have known that because my fan fiction pretty much covers half of that. Which means I need to start writing again. However, but Duncan is soon defied by Gilcomgain. He, of course, is trying to arrange an accident for Macbeth, and Gilcomgain declines. He uses the reasoning that it would bring up too many questions regarding Macbeth's father's death. Finley hasn't been dead that long, and he was very well loved by the people, and so is Macbeth. So to, cause an accident, I think that would have been very suspicious. I know Gilcomgain is just doing it for his own reasonings, but I actually agree with the reasonings he gives. So in this segment, we do see that Duncan actually pits Macbeth against Gilcomgain. He tells Macbeth that Gilcomgain was responsible for Finley's death. And so, of course, Macbeth goes out to seek revenge. And we see Gruach outside. Macbeth is watching her. I think he gave her the rose, and she's enjoying the quiet night. Now, I want to ask you this, Greg. I have a question. I think that at this time she was possibly pregnant with Gilcomgain's son. Do you agree or do you not? Do you think?
I actually do agree. I mean, even Greg has talked about this in history. Mm-hmm. Officially, Luach is Gilcomgain's son. On the show, they tried to be a little bit more vague. I mean, Gruach and Macbeth were so in love they may have been seeing each other while she was married to Gilcomgain also. So, who the hell knows? I mean, it could have. It could have been. I mean, it would not surprise me if Macbeth and Gruach were getting it on while she was married to Gilcomgain. It would not shock me in the slightest.
No. Well, and that was the saddest wedding I've ever seen. She's just sitting there like, my lord, and to Gilcomgain. But then when she marries Macbeth, of course, it's a much happier unity. But I don't know.
They're both happier than a wedding on Game of Thrones.
True. Maybe Gruach was thinking when she was marrying Gilcomgain, she would have liked the Game of Thrones wedding. I don't know. It's got to be better than marrying this oaf. But at this time we see another fight scene between Macbeth and Gilcomgain. And of course we skipped over this in the last one. Of course I did. But Demona again comes to the rescue. She sees Gilcomgain pull up his hunter's hood, and she joins the battle. And she does help Macbeth. And this time Macbeth saves her life. She saved his. Yes?
Yeah, and another key moment.
Yes.
She takes off its mask. Like, this is your handiwork. You did this to me when I was a boy, remember? No. To you, when bison graced your village, was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
Yep, it was Tuesday. I was getting some apples. I'm done. Yeah, how do you think that made Gilcomgain feel? You know, I've been building up to this moment. I'm going to show you what you did. I don't remember you.
Who the hell are you?
Yeah.
You don't matter.
You don't matter. You're an ant. And then, of course, Gilcomgain falls to his death, and Macbeth saves Damona from doing the same. So they're even. They have a very, very brief alliance going on, which Macbeth will talk about later on. You know, they're on the excursion in episode 3.
I don't even know if I would call that an alliance.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I don't even know what you would call it. They just.
Although Macbeth would call it an alliance.
See, he called it an alliance, so I was quoting him. But I don't think Damona feels the same way by any means.
Not at all. Part 3.
Yeah, I was going to say if we just part 3, because really that's the vital portion. But this is the first time, you know, we start with that excursion that I was talking about. They go on their journey, or they're exploring the caves in Scotland, and they stumble across Damona's new clan. They're hiding, of course, from being exterminated, and Duncan's first reaction is to destroy them. And this is where we hear that, you know, we have an alliance with these gargoyles.
He didn't say that. He said
he didn't quite say it, but
I know we had fought side by side in the past. We have a similar history. I mean, he didn't say that it wasn't a formal alliance. And he didn't even say that they just worked together once. And I'm pretty sure Duncan put 2 and 2 together there about who killed Gilcomgain.
Oh, gotcha. But this is the first time that we see the Weird Sisters directly speaking to Macbeth. And
in a scene right out of Shakespeare.
It is double toil and trouble, all hail. But they in turn provide that prophecy that all 4 of them at one point will become king. You know, Macbeth tries to deny it. Duncan, of course, is suspicious and very concerned about his claim to the throne. And you see that turn of events because moments before.
And even Canmore gives Luwak a dirty look at that point.
He does. He looks very concerned when the Weird Sisters are speaking. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, he gives that dirty look, yeah. But what after that interaction with the Weird Sisters, we do see Duncan and some of his men return to the cave, and they're going to destroy the gargoyles. Luckily, the sun goes down. Damona is able to save the remaining members of her clan.
She almost gets killed.
She does.
Yeah, she almost gets stabbed, but she's much older now, nowhere near as tough as she used to be.
Right. And she's starting to curse her age because she is starting to feel it at this point. And so there's
no one else. I love that moment. There's no one else to lead the last of our kind, and her second in command is right there.
And you can see it on his face. He's like, really? And then we go back to a bit more with Macbeth. And this time, he is having a conversation with Bodhi. They are going to gather allies. And so he rides off. And
no, they're not. They're not going to gather allies. Macbeth is willing to put up a fight with Bodhi. It's like, hey, if you surrender, Duncan might spare my daughter and grandchild. So Bodhi's being a coward again.
Yeah. He is a coward. Yeah, there they are. And so he rides off, and this, of course, is where he has his fate interaction with Damona, and the Weird Sisters seal the deal. They each sacrifice. And is this where you want to talk about the spell itself, or do you want to wait till part 4?
A little bit later. Hey, what did she sacrifice? If you ask me, she got the better end of the deal.
That's true. She got the better end of the deal. He sacrificed his youth, and I don't think she really sacrificed. I always felt that her needing to become his alliance or his ally was her sacrifice, but really, I think she truly enjoyed her time as his advisor.
Well, I'll have something to say about this a little bit later, but we'll get to that. But it's a great scene. I mean, I love the way it's animated. Even though this is not Walt Disney Television Japan that's doing it, it's still a very good-looking scene. Mm-hmm. I love that incantation, that poem that the Weird Sisters
chant.
Chant while they're doing this. I mean, it's a great scene.
It is. Well, and, a lot is to be said about that. The animation in this arc is spectacular. And you just said it wasn't done by Disney Japan?
No, it wasn't. There are parts in the first episode that kind of get on my nerves when the wrong Demona model is used in certain scenes.
Yeah, when she's different in a number of different episodes. Like, she always has a different body type.
Like, it's especially apparent in that scene where she's talking to the captain in part 1. There's moments when the older model is used instead.
Oh yeah.
And then it happens again when she is crying over her dead clan. That's the older model. Look at it again sometime. They made a few mistakes.
They did. Okay, I'm going to investigate that because that's something I never. I mean, I've always noticed the body structure, but I'm going to look at the face. Yeah. Again. Look at the face. Okay.
Yeah, she's got her youth back. Macbeth is now Sean Connery.
Yeah, he totally is.
And the Weird Sisters give him that. Celine gives him that orb.
Celine gives him the orb that he will use later, and of course, then they are in their battle tents, and Demona comes in. They had doubted that she would arrive, but she did. She came in, and she's going to fight at his side.
There's also a scene that Greg wanted in there that didn't quite animate, where Greg would run her fingers through Macbeth's hair when she says, "I hope you haven't made a bad bargain," because he just lost about 20 years of his life as far as they know.
That's true. Now, in the show, this is a little off topic. In the show, does he stay the same age and his physical features just age with him, or does he actually age, internally too? Do we know that? Or is that an Ask Greg question?
I don't understand the question. He's not aging at all. I don't think he's aging at all. Neither of them are.
Okay, that's why I was asking, like, if they chronically age, or if it was just a trade. Because I know he's not overly old. Yeah.
Yeah, she's permanently 35, well, the human equivalent of 35, and he is permanently 52.
52. Okay, that's what I was asking, because he does look very good for 52. I mean, before he meets her, and then of course he's gray, and he has more of the physical features of an older man, but I didn't know if that came more from Demona or if he chronically aged. So thank you for clarifying.
I think it may have come from him, because there's a lot of 52-year-old men who aren't that gray.
That's true.
The stress of the time and stuff.
Greg's 50 now, but if he when he turns 52, no, he shaved his head. We won't know.
That's sneak.
That's sneak, yeah. Yeah, and
he'll never tell us.
No, he won't.
But with Demona bringing her clan to fight at Macbeth's side, this leads us into the battle against Prince Duncan, or against Duncan. King Duncan now. See, I knew I was going to do that. Against King Duncan at this time, and truthfully, it almost appears that Macbeth is losing, but he brings out the orb from Celine, and that is the demise of Duncan when Duncan strikes the orb.
That is so fanciful. They only did that because they couldn't have Macbeth run him through with a sword, but they didn't want to just throw him off a cliff like they did with Kilkenny
and Finlay.
I mean, there's a part of me that goes, this is awesome, but it's also ridiculous, but...
It's a cop-out.
It is. I mean, I enjoy the scene anyway, but at the same time, it's also kind of badass because his head lights on fire from the inside, and then he falls off the cliff. I saw
that. Yeah, and then he falls off the cliff. And so now part of the prophecy has been fulfilled. Macbeth will take his place on the throne. And they banish Canmore. And
then, as Greg says in the audio commentary, Bodhi's really tough now. The battle is over, and he's facing a kid. Greg said that in the audio commentary. It's right there. Check your DVD, guys. It's hilarious.
He's big and bad. He's got a kid.
You have in trouble. Slay him now.
And they should have, but prophecies work that way, don't they?
Yep.
And so Macbeth becomes King of Scotland, and we go to...
And he names
Demona as his advisor, and I don't have the exact wording, but if you do, please share it. But he names her as the advisor, and he promises a new era.
Yeah, his primary advisor, yeah.
Yep, his primary
advisor. A new golden age, yeah.
Well, it's over here in the wiki under quotes, and I'm going to do the voices atrociously. Humans will learn to respect you. I would rather
they fear me.
You're my primary advisor. What should we do about our taxation policy?
Off with their heads!
Turn them to stone. And
I guarantee you she ordered a few beheadings in her time.
Probably.
More than likely. And then, of course, we go back to present day where Xanatos has indeed hatched a plan. What they're going to
Xanatos.
Because it's Xanatos, and he has 1 million resources and dollars and plans.
Only $1 million? I think you're way underselling him.
I think I am.
I mean, $1 million barely buys you a house anymore.
That's true.
Why go for a billion, but we can go for a million?
You live in Southern California. You know this now. $1 million.
Oh yeah. That's why I still live with my parents. Thank God they're letting me stay here.
But he has, of course, devised a plan. They are going to set the sky ablaze. He has, of course, set a number of his Steel Clan robots with the spray. It's like a spray or something that they put into the atmosphere.
Yeah, like a phosphorescent something.
This is one of only 2 or 3 times the Steel Clan actually succeed in their mission.
And then he, of course, equips the gargoyles with the same spray. So they go off and they do their really cool, aerial trick at the end. And that
and as Greg said in the audio commentary, they flew off to pass gas. He said that, not me.
That's awesome.
It looks like they do. I hate to agree.
Even Gargoyles is unsafe from fart jokes.
Boys and fart jokes.
Yep. Well, they are kind of funny.
They are very funny. Elisa and Owen were left at the castle. We start in part 4. Elisa and Owen are left at the castle. Once again, they just should have listened to Bronx. He knew something was behind the tapestry, and we learned that Demona has used a secret passageway to get into the castle, and she
nearly smashes Elisa. She
does, and Bronx stops her.
Which, by the way, Shipper's logic, that actually means that she wants to lick chocolate sauce off of her body.
Yeah, where does that come from?
I don't know.
Can of worms. I don't want to touch it.
No. I'll take shots at it later during the interview.
There you go. Every time someone does the Demona Elisa cross fic, I just kind of cry a little. But anyway. Anyway, she convinces Bronx with her soothing tone that Elisa is safe, so Bronx leaves her alone and doesn't maul her face off. And she changes the computer. So the packs that everyone is spreading into the air will explode much faster. But Macbeth shows up, and they begin their battle.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
It's after the flashback, one of my favorite lines of the entire 4-parters here. Take off that mask. You aren't fooling
anyone.
Macbeth, and as an audience member, I'm thinking, thank you for saying that. It proves that unlike most shows, the writers are well aware. I mean, that you're not going to be fooling anybody. This isn't like Spectacular Spider-Man or Green Goblin and Norman Osborn have different faces.
Well, and Gargoyles every now and then uses very similar voices from the voice actors, so I don't know if they were trying to go for a moment of trickery, but as soon as you heard the voice, yeah.
No, they weren't, because he was wearing the same coat, the same costume. I mean, we've seen it before. Greg said that the real mystery was why is Macbeth, who hates the hunter, wearing this mask?
It's true. That's a question. We need to post some of these on Ask Greg if they're not.
No. I know the answers to.
Oh, you do.
It's to give him a psychological edge against Demona, but Demona figured out who he was in part 2 the moment he took a shot at her and he was visibly in pain, so it didn't quite work out that way.
It didn't quite work out that way. Yeah, because you even hear, it's you.
Don't you ever give up.
Yep. And so they do confront each other after Greg's favorite line. And then we see the battle again between a new hunter, is a flashback, between a new hunter and Demona and her clan.
I wonder who he is.
I don't know.
Was it that kid who took the mask from Damona's belt in part 3? Could it be him?
Couldn't possibly be him. I'm sure that mask was replicated.
No.
Yeah, I know.
It's a time-traveling Norman Osborn from Spectacular Spider-Man. That's who it is.
What? Oh my god.
He learned to speak in a Scottish accent.
Wow!
But after that battle, we do see the interaction between Damona and Macbeth. She's talking about how the night is won. He, celebrates with her briefly, but then she
lifts him up in the air and
twirls around.
And this is very interesting. I had suspected something, and then Greg said during the audio commentary that right there, she was a little bit in love with him.
I was going to ask about that because I've heard that on the audio commentary too, and I didn't know if I suspected you had, but it does seem that maybe there was a bit more happening between these two with that relationship.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay.
Maybe in her mind, but he was also very happily married at the time.
With Roaaar. Mm-hmm.
So I don't think anything was going on between them, but I do think she had way more going on in her head for him and in her heart also than she would ever admit, and I guarantee you she wouldn't admit it now. I mean,
right.
Probably wouldn't even admit it then, but...
Mm-hmm. But he and Bodhi and his son Luak are talking about, gaining more allies, and Luak's suggestion, of course, is to stop the alliance with Damona and her clan, and Damona eavesdrops. She sees Macbeth considering. He never gives an actual answer.
That was Bodhi's suggestion, not Luak's.
Oh, you're right, it's Bodhi.
Because Bodhi's a coward. Let's give Luak some credit.
That's true.
Luak, Gilcum Gain's possible son.
Mm-hmm. But Macbeth never answers. But of course, in Damona's mind, humans are treacherous, therefore they will all betray her. So she, in turn...
If she had stayed another minute, she may have heard him say, Bodhi, your suggestion is fucking stupid.
I'm not signing up for this.
No, I mean, he just wanted to teach his son a lesson about being a king.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And he chose the wrong example to do it with.
How was he to know?
Yeah.
But of course, Damona does not show up at the raid. Their castle is raided. Macbeth heroically saves Gruach. They escape the castle, only to fall into another trap. And at this point, Macbeth is stabbed by Canmore.
By the way, this site is Lunfannon Hill. It's the same spot where Macbeth and Gruach broke up before her marriage to Gilcum Gain.
Ah, yes, it is.
Damn it! I gotta watch this stuff again.
There's also a point here that I want to make. I see a lot of...
Yes.
Damona's my favorite character. I am by no means a Damona revisionist or apologist, but I see a lot of them say, well, Macbeth was going to betray her, and I'm thinking, you watch this scene, and you seriously believe he was going to betray her? You really think that? Really?
Yeah. I never got the impression that he was going to. I just...
Neither have I. I don't know how they arrived at that.
Even my 14-year-old self never got the impression that he was going to betray her. But, of course, she betrays him. And her clan didn't show up. They fight, and
her clan got killed by...
Her clan was killed, yep.
By Canmore's
army. And Canmore takes the opportunity, of course, to kill Macbeth. So they both appear to be dead at this point because of their linkage.
Right.
And Macbeth Canmore gets the spell wrong.
He does, because if one die, both die, but they have to die at each other's hand.
Mm-hmm.
When one lives, both live.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, as I was going to say earlier, we read a point where in the play, Macduff is able to kill Macbeth because a prophecy by the Weird Sisters was, no man of woman born may kill you. So Macbeth interprets this as, I am invincible, but Macduff was born from a cesarean section, and Damona was hatched from an egg.
From an egg.
Mm-hmm.
I think Greg said they wanted to somehow get that in there, but they couldn't find a place for it.
That's unfortunate because I don't know. This episode series is so solid. I don't think they could have inserted it. But
I can't see anything I would take out to...
I know, to make room for that. Yeah.
And I see a lot of people saying, well, they should have put in this and they should have put in that. And I keep saying, what would you have cut? And then they're like, What are you talking about?
Yeah, because you'd have to cut it for the time frame.
Yeah,
Right.
People forget about that pesky time frame.
And truthfully, I don't see anywhere they could have, but honestly, if they could have made that into the show, it would have been awesome too. But then we see them die, and as you said, they got the spell wrong. So once both dies, when one dies, both die, but when one lives, both lives. And unfortunately, because everybody saw Macbeth as dead, he has to remain that way.
I want to point something about how powerful this is. I mean, Gruach makes a very, very, very bigoted statement against gargoyles. She calls them your nightmare kind. That's a pretty harsh, horrible thing to say, and I understand why she feels this way, and I get the impression she was never exactly pro-gargoyles. She was always uncomfortable around them. That's the impression I've gotten, but that's the sort of thing you would expect the Hunters or John Castaway in the comics to end up saying, and you know what? At that moment, we don't blame her, and we know gargoyles aren't this evil species, but in that moment, the way this is presented is so well done and so powerful. Part of you doesn't even think, "Oh, bitch, why are you saying that?" I'm like, "Wow, yeah." I mean, you're thinking, "Jesus," and part of you even kind of sympathizes with her in that moment because we know why she feels that way. But a lot of people don't quite pick up on that. She made a very hateful remark there, and
yeah.
But I think everybody related with her in that moment.
Yeah,
I mean, this was the love of her life, and he's dead as far as she knows. And you know, I agree with you. I actually felt sympathy. You understand her rage and her grief when she says it. And it is powerful. Well, this whole scene is so powerful. I mean, you watch it and you're just spellbound. Like it's hard to comment and put into words. You know, the power behind the writing and the way the scene is played out.
Absolutely.
And then Macbeth has to leave because people already will suspect him of witchcraft if he shows up suddenly alive, and
right. Go better.
Yeah, this is so, and this is in hopes that his son will win and hold the throne. But as we find out later, a year later, his son is killed by Canmore. And this is something revealed in Ask Greg. It wasn't mentioned in the show, but Gruach committed suicide right after that.
Oh. That I didn't know. I knew that Luach, of course, was killed by Canmore, and Canmore assumed the throne, so therefore the prophecy was fulfilled. Yeah. I did not know that Gruach committed suicide, but that plays into the Shakespeare play as well with Lady Macbeth.
I don't know how Gruach died in real life. I don't think it's recorded, but
I don't think so either. I haven't seen anything.
And I've looked.
I have too, because I actually researched quite a few of these characters for a writing of mine. And I haven't found anything about Gruach, but I haven't looked recently, I guess, so.
Yeah, but this is powerful stuff. That scene where Macbeth says goodbye to Gruach for the last time, it's just...
Yeah.
You know, now that you pointed it out that it was their breakup spot, it's even more symbolic just because he said goodbye to her once there and everything turned out to be for the best. You know, they did get married, they were together, but now this time he actually does say goodbye to her forever. Oh, that's sad. Ugh. It's even more feels now.
I made it even more angsty. Yay.
You did. Way to go, Greg.
Hooray! Oh wait, no.
Hooray! Angst. We all need angst. But we go back to the castle. They say Greg's favorite line with the take off the mask.
It's my third favorite line.
With the take off the mask, Macbeth, and the two of them fight. And Macbeth actually is having the advantage. He gets Damona into a position where she's knocked out, and he actually does have that option to kill her. And he really could have.
He was going to impale her on a piece of debris. Which is another thing, an implication that you don't see often in a show supposedly for kids.
No.
Yeah.
No. Absolutely not.
I'm going to throw her into a dimensional portal that will send her to the next dimension where she will cease to be.
Okay! But you don't often see the true choice of killing another character. But then the Weird Sisters show up and they remind him, of the type of person he is, that he doesn't want this really, and he says that he is so tired. So now
I think Goliath and Xanatos are here too.
They are. Xanatos and Goliath are just kind of standing there. They're not really sure what to do, I think, but
I still love Xanatos' reaction. Normally I would be fascinated by this, but I need that access.
I need that access code. And Demona gives them the access code.
And a very powerful scene.
In a very powerful scene is all.
Yes. Absolutely.
She's entranced by the Weird Sisters. She's shouting out all the reasons that it's everyone's fault but her own. And the Weird Sisters, I think they ring true to her, because you see that change, and then her eyes swell up and she gives them the code of alone. And so they are able to fly. Xanatos flies up and punches in the code, saves the city, looking pretty heroic. Yep, breaks a sweat, and Bronx is there watching.
And I think the scene sums her up. Granted, she was in a trance at the time, so yeah, she was under a spell. But at the same time, though, I mean, they could have redeemed her right here, and they chose not to do that. And to be honest, I'm glad they didn't do that.
Me too.
But then again, who knows what would have happened if let's be honest, the Weird Sisters were completely bullshit in here. They were trying to break down Macbeth and Demona emotionally so they would willfully relinquish control of themselves so they could become the Archmage's soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they weren't really solving anything here.
No, they were just manipulating events, as always. But that wraps up the City of Stone, and it is such a powerful story arc. I
have said this before, but no other animated series that I have seen, especially an American animated series, I'm not some kind of weeaboo because I'm not a big fan of anime. I like some, but I've not seen any American animated series go this dark, get into this kind of depth before this or since then.
Yeah.
Even Gargoyles itself never quite got this deep ever again. I mean, it did. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't deep. It really was. I love Hunter's Moon. I love just about every episode. But this was this was like it transcended the entire genre. It transcended the medium.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know people cite like Batman animated series, which is another great show. Avatar: Last Airbender, another great show, and they both did amazing things, but they never did this.
Never.
Yeah.
And, I liked Batman the Animated Series, but it never had the continuous storyline the way this one does. It never dove into the characters' psyches the way this one does.
It did, but that stuff would be ignored when they came back. I mean, how many times has Harley Quinn finally realized the Joker was not a good boyfriend to her, only to be with him in the
next episode? Yep.
Yeah.
But this, I mean, this one really changed things. I mean, we learned more about Demona. It didn't really change her. We learned more about her. We learned Macbeth, I think, learned a lesson here. I mean, he wasn't really gunning for vengeance ever again, except in Sanctuary, where, let's be honest, she had it coming there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But this is the case where he wasn't hunting her. She kind of willfully put herself in front of him and said, here, come hit me.
By the way, I wondered, do we have an idea on how Macbeth ends? Does he even dies one day?
I assume the answer is Demona die one day. Greg's not revealing that, but he did say one thing, that spell would never be lifted off of them.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I mean, and this is something I did want to get into. A lot of people misinterpret this spell. I've seen fanfics where they get blown to bits and they reassemble like the T-1000 and Terminator, and Greg said, no, that's not how it works. That's never happened to them. They've never been beheaded. She's never been smashed. I mean, the Weird Sisters, weird is an old English word for fate. That's how Shakespeare was using it. They made a link between them. They made them ageless, but you can't just blow them to bits. I mean, it isn't just a this is the only way you can die. This is how you will die. You will die at each other's hands.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, for example, I got into a debate with a friend of mine about this a few years ago, and he says, well, then how did she survive the castle in Awakening Part 5 when she was unconscious falling? I said, first of all, she wasn't unconscious. I don't think you scream when you're unconscious. Greg said that she just managed to correct course in midair and glide away. She didn't pancake it on the pavement.
Right.
Right. Well, and none of the debris was really directly over her, so she would have been able.
There was a piece that seemed to be directly over her, but I can think of a few ways she could have avoided it. But
yes.
And people are like, well, Lisa killed her temporarily in Sanctuary. Yeah, that's what Lisa thinks happened. She took a shot at her. Doesn't mean she killed her. Could may have just been a knockout. I mean, it doesn't mean she was actually dead.
Right.
Well, and even Macbeth alludes to that. I don't remember the exact line in Sanctuary, but
makes it impossible for us to die by anyone else.
Yeah.
So Lisa may have said killing temporarily, but there are some fans who take things that characters say as gospel. It's absolute truth. A character can make a statement without knowing what they're talking about. I mean, like in The Reckoning, I've seen people who say, well, Demona knows every remaining gargoyle on Earth. And like, what makes you think that? Because she said so in The Reckoning. I'm like, no.
Right.
She clearly didn't know about the Avalon clan, so there's... I mean, I think she knew about London. I have no idea if she knew about the Mayan clan or Ishimura, but I'm fairly sure she knew about London.
I feel she had to know about a few of them at least. So.
Oh, I'm sure she does, but I don't think. Oh God, can you imagine what seeing Ishimura would do to her? But yeah. Anyway, these are my favorite episodes. I love them.
Well, I know we did more summarizing than anything. Do you have more thoughts you wanted to share about them, or
I kind of interject with a lot of them, but
you did, yeah.
A lot of my thoughts. But what I loved here, and how many very few people know the true history of Macbeth, and here they put it on television. I mean, would I have known this if not for these episodes? Probably not. I mean, I would have gotten into the play, but I mean, these people are very obscure, even in the history books. There's not much. I mean, I think even Greg went into this not knowing the true history of Macbeth. It was his friend Tuppence McIntyre, who's an assistant district attorney in Los Angeles, who Margot is not based on, who did the research for him, because I think she's of Scottish descent.
Well, and I even read on the Garg Wiki that John Rhys Davies thought that Greg was revisioning Macbeth, and then when he found out it was more of the historical story, he was like wholeheartedly into it. So
I read that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. And this also sums up Demona and how, I think it was Mara who asked the question, it was Mara at Convergence, when she asked Marina, what did you put into Demona? What aspects did you draw from yourself? And Marina really internalized the character more than I had thought, because I've seen her talk about gargoyles in the past very briefly, and I mean, and I know she doesn't really have much memories of it. She's admittedly not a big fan of animation, but she loved doing this show. And but then she talked about how she doesn't see Demona as someone who really is a thinker. She's not stupid. She's very smart, but she doesn't plan ahead. She doesn't think of the consequences of her actions. She lives in the moment. And Marina said that that if Demona dwelled on her past or her future, it would destroy her. And I'm thinking, and I was like, wow. I mean, here's the fact that she said that at Convergence, and I was impressed. Oftentimes I'll see actors, especially for things like this, and this be like, it's been a while, I don't really remember, and I'm thinking, and Marina's been that way before, but still, damn, I mean, I think she's really gotten into it again since the last gathering and this, I mean.
I remember that question, I remember that response, and I remember being blown away by it because, like you said, I kind of expected her to be like, oh, well, I saw this part of me, or I saw this, and, I just went with that, and she didn't. She had a very rapid-fire answer.
I mean, I saw cameras in the room, but none of this has been uploaded to YouTube or anything, and I'm thinking, people with cameras, come on, post it.
I need to see if I recorded that portion, because I have my videos that I haven't uploaded yet.
Well, please do, especially at that.
I'll check on them today if I get a chance to. It's hard with work and family and stuff, but excuses.
You have a better excuse than probably the rest of us.
Well, it has been such a pleasure reviewing these episodes with you. As soon as we had mentioned doing them, we had hoped you would want to come on and commentary with us. So thank you for joining us on our roar.
Thank you for having me.
Did you hear my guy roar in the background?
Yes.
He roars now. He will roar. He'll come up and he'll be like, rah! I love it.
Next time he will roar.
Oh, that's adorable.
I know, it's great. We'll be like, who's a dinosaur? Rah!
Nice.
But on that note, I think we can wrap up our Roar and go on to our interview.
Oh, that thing!
Yay.
That thing!
That's why I'm here.
Oh, yeah! Well, as we know, Greg B has been a mainstay of the fandom since one could argue that he created the fandom. Again,
No. It was around before. I didn't get onto the internet until around spring of 1997. Station 8 already existed. People were already there. Todd Jensen was already there. No.
Oh! I sit corrected then.
But I did watch the show from day one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go. So you were part of the fandom
In spirit, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I just don't want to overstate my part in the fandom. There's plenty of people who have done way more than I have. You had her on last month.
Aw.
We love you, Jen.
So I'm most interested. How did you discover Gargoyles? How did you fall for it?
I remember there were these commercials that would air. They were very vague. I mean, we would see either these extreme close-ups or these faraway shots. They never quite gave you a good look at them, and would just say, "It's coming," and Gargoyles. I was thinking, what is this? Is this a video game? Is this a TV series? What is this? And then the marketing at the time was brilliant. They were very mysterious, never gave you full shots of them. And they said it'll premiere in Monday at 4. And I said, okay, I'll watch this. And I watched Awakening. I thought it was pretty cool. And then I never stopped, but I didn't really. But I wouldn't say I fell for it. I became obsessed with it until season 2 when City of Stone aired, which we just reviewed. I mean, don't get me wrong. I thought it was fantastic. And I would say, well, that's a fantastic show. But there's a lot of shows I think are fantastic shows, which I don't obsess and haven't given me quite as much, anywhere near as much as Gargoyles did. I mean, I think Game of Thrones is a fantastic show. I think Breaking Bad is a fantastic show. I love these shows, but they haven't made nearly as much of an impact on me as this did. I mean, so
right.
When City of Stone aired, I was like, and I was 14 at the time, and I'm like, wow, am I seeing this? What is this? Wow.
Yeah.
To the point where that was what got me interested, that got me interested in storytelling in general, because I realized that at that age, just how powerful telling a simple thing as telling a story can be.
Right. Fantastic.
So that's why I was really happy to talk about City of Stone, because it had this major impact on me. And so I watched them as they aired. I remembered when the reruns started hitting during the World Tour, which made the tour seem much longer than it really was. Demono was my favorite from practically the beginning. I remember because Sanctuary premiered in December and The Reckoning premiered in May, so it was a very long wait to see these two characters, Simone and Angela, finally officially meet. And then I was blown away by Hunter's Moon, and then Disney Adventures came out and said, hey, there's a third season coming up. Like, oh, yay, there's going to be more. Oh, it premiered. And people have accused me, you hate the Goliath Chronicles just because Greg wasn't involved. I wasn't in the fandom yet. I didn't know who Greg Wiseman was. I didn't know about the changeover yet. So I was just watching these episodes. These aren't good. They kind of suck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And then about a month after TGC ended, my friend had America Online at his house. I didn't. This is how long ago this was. This is how long ago this was. I got on and said, is there anything about Gargoyles on the internet? The internet was still new to me, and I found Station 8, and I found Ask Greg. Ask Greg had literally just opened. The first batch of questions were there.
Oh, wow.
And I had learned quite a bit, and that explained a lot. Although my first post in Station 8 ever at the time was TGC sucks!
Teenage rant!
Yeah, I didn't talk about what I enjoyed. I talked about how much I hated TGC at the time. And, I got better. Well, to be fair, I was right.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when TGC ended, I was like, I'm not actually upset with not having Gargoyles on the air now, because that was just crap.
I mean, I've seen people defend it. Well, it gave it a happy ending. It gave it this. It gave it that. And I'm thinking, No, it didn't. This was the most juvenile, easy ass pull of an ending I have ever seen, and this show is better than that. I mean, I have this infamous review of Angels in the Night. I've only ever seen the Goliath Chronicles episodes, like Greg Weisman, once, but then someone asked me, you should review a TGC episode. Pick the worst one. Pick the most offensive one. And I said, okay, I'll review Angels in the Night. People said, oh, that's not the worst one. I said, oh, it is the worst one. Trust me on this one. It's on Gargwiki. It's on my blog. I typed as I watched this thing. So this is the second and last time I've seen this episode, and I was reacting to what I was seeing, and then when I get, okay, final thoughts. I mean, just you save it. I mean, I'm pretty sure if Martin Luther King Jr. and his followers saved a train of white people from the KKK, that wouldn't have made racism go away.
Very true. Yes.
Yes.
I mean,
and the one gripe I have is that it ended. Why would you want Gargoyles to end?
And I had a lot of gripes. I mean, at the time, I was upset because if this is a final episode like this, why isn't Demona in the episode? I mean, I would have hated the story either way, but for a story like this, you either need to have her realize, okay, I was wrong, or have her and eat crow, or have her still be in denial. I mean, you can't do a story like this without her. But even if she was there, it would have been terrible.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even at the time, I guarantee whatever differences she and Angela had, she would have gone to save her from that train.
Yeah, which she has done in the past.
Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of reasons why that episode didn't work. Demona not being there was the least of its problems.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the biggest problem I had with that episode was John Castaway acknowledging, you're here to save lives. What? Really?
Yeah.
You writers, you had him say that? What? Why is he, if he knows they're heroic, why is he doing any of this?
Right.
Of course, granted, he wasn't John Canmore in the show at all. I mean, they never made that reveal. As far as I'm concerned, they treated them like separate characters anyway.
Yeah. The mustache-twirling villain.
Yeah, and which he had.
Mm-hmm.
That mustache. But so I ended up making a few posts in Station 8. I got better, and then I ended up joining the Gargoyle Saga fanfic group, which had already planned its entire first season and a good portion of its second season when I got on there. And at the time, I wasn't quite as outspoken, so I got on and I looked at the plans. There were a lot of amazing ideas there, and there were some ideas I disagreed with. Anyone who knows me will know which ideas those were, but I was thinking, okay, I'm the newbie here. I shouldn't speak out of turn. I'll just keep this to myself. They had already planned this stuff. I shouldn't come in here and say, no, you shouldn't do that. But I think you know what I'm talking about. Anyone who's read that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a time when I held my tongue. But then what happened was around the same time the two seasons ended, and then we ended up doing a third season of it, and we had another member, and then most of the staff members from the first two seasons of TGS left at that point. I said, okay, we can do things differently now, and we had two differing visions there. It ended up splitting into two factions, and if you read that third season of TGS stories, you can kind of see that one of them was a bit darker, wanted to have the balls of the show, and the other side was interested in the gargoyles fighting Taro's robot ninjas.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah,
and that kind of led to some friction, and then that person left, and to be honest, we didn't really continue after that. Eventually it reached a point where I realized, okay, a lot of what I'm doing here is trying to reset things back to how the characters were on the show. There were a few creative differences. I wanted to present Xanatos as an amoral schemer.
Which is what he is.
He is, yeah.
But they're like, no, he won't use the clan. He wouldn't use other staff members. He wouldn't use the clan like that anymore. And then, let's just say I felt vindicated when the comic came out.
I can imagine, yeah.
And he tried to steal the Stone of Destiny, and he was, and the Steel Clan Coyote and that Iron Clan robot were shooting at Hudson and Lex during that, even though they had orders not to harm them. Okay, we won't kill you, but we'll hurt you to carry out this mission.
Yeah.
And Xanatos just wanted them there as a distraction anyway.
Yep.
But he hasn't changed that much. But you know what? What I learned from TGS at the same time was you have to be a bit of a team. I learned you have to be a bit of a team player when you work on these things. I also learned at the same time writing by committee is not usually a good idea because, I learned a lot there, and I have nothing but respect for most of the people I worked with there. There are a few people whom there were some issues with, but The problem was, especially with a group like that, is that everyone has their pet character. They'll introduce their own original character that only they care about, and then when they leave, you're left with this character, and you have and plot lines are set up, and I have no interest in this particular character, and there were a lot of those. And
I can imagine.
It also taught me never create an original character when there's a canon character that can and should be in that role.
Yeah,
that's a good
makes sense.
I mean, for example, they took down the Quarrymen, in my opinion, prematurely in the middle of their first season, and it was a conflict between two brothers. It was the heart of it, and it wasn't Jason and John.
Oh, they created OCs?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, Jason and John were there, but they weren't the heart of that story, and they should have been. These new characters who were created became the heart of that story, which, that was a big lesson here, and I don't mean to disparage anyone. It was a well-written story, but if you're going to do that, it should be Jason and John.
Right. Mm-hmm. You know, stick with the resources that are available.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
I remember they brought in this doctor character that was an original character, and I'm thinking, you've got Dr. Sato over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted the good counterpart to Severius, which I think Dr. Sato is going to be. But again, I had a good time on there. There were a lot of disagreements, but when you have a bunch of fans together trying to map out what they think should happen, that's bound to happen. I mean, you have
absolutely
personalities, but again, I feel it was a very good learning experience. I learned what works, what doesn't work, and I was able to do my own thing much later on, but we'll get there. And then after that, I'd been attending gatherings. My first gathering was the 1998 gathering. Then I went to 1999. I missed 2000 in Orlando, but I went to 2001 onwards and haven't missed one since then. And at 2001, I met a few people who... Mara Cordova, Aaron Wheeler, and several other people who ended up being my staff for the 2003 gathering, which we hosted in Manhattan. And Aaron Wheeler is really the unsung hero of this thing. He was a treasurer. We were a staff that had no idea what we were doing. This was the first time any of us had done any of this, and without him, really, I mean, it would have ended up being a disaster. So he's the unsung hero of this thing. I mean...
Now, Aaron, he's the one who, if I recall correctly, in 2009 submitted the resin cast Phoenix Gate. Is that correct?
No. He wasn't at 2009. Mara was at 2009. He wasn't. He was at Convergence, and he's been to most gatherings. He has Demona tattooed on his chest.
Ooh. Then who did the resin cast Phoenix Gate or was it 2006 that I'm thinking of?
No. That was Aaron Matthews, a different Aaron.
Oh, my mistake.
Yeah, he also ended up recording the only surviving recording of the radio play that year, the Spectacular Spider-Man Meets Gargoyles radio play. And thank God, because the staff did it also, but our copies, the sounds were completely distorted, so that would have been lost forever if he didn't have his copy out there. So, Aaron Matthews, if you're out there listening, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Because that would have been a shame to lose.
Yes, or even just fanfic in general. Did you ever have any OCs of your own, or did you just primarily work?
I do, but I primarily work with canon characters. I wrote this one fic back in 2009. It was called Rhapsody. It was actually originally meant to be part of the 2008's Item of Enchantment storyline, and I requested the, hey, can I reserve the Phoenix Gate the Praying Gargoyle for this, and they gave it to me, and then I was knee-deep in film school at the time. I got busy, I couldn't finish it, but the story I'd come up with was just clawing at my head, so around November of that year, months after the gathering, I said, you know what, I want to finish this thing, especially since I'm starting a job soon. That job didn't go too well, and I'm not going to have time. So my idea was basically based on a few hints Greg dropped, very vague hints. I mean, I mostly made it up, but there were a few things I knew. The Praying Gargoyle, there's an Atlantean crystal inside of it. If you shatter the thing but leave the crystal on holy ground, it reforms itself after about 60 years. There's this Team Atlantis crossover with Demona where she uses it gets destroyed, but she manages to escape the crystal, and that's why she returns in 1980 in Hunter's Moon Part 3 to pick the thing up, because she knew it was going to be ready by then. And Greg also and I said, okay, so she comes back for this thing again. It's 60 years in the future, 60 years after Hunter's Moon. What can I do? And then I read that Greg said that the Gargoyle Minority Protection Act, which exists in 2198, is passed after Goliath dies. He sacrifices himself. And I'm thinking, wow. what happens, and I'm thinking, what happens here? And I'm thinking, what's he sacrifice himself fighting? Who does he fight? I mean, I had conversations with people about this for a while, and at one point I said, maybe it's a hunter, maybe it's one of the quarrymen, maybe it's this. And then I started writing a story, and then I realized, no, it's Demona.
Yeah.
And so I write the story. It takes place 60 years in the future. Brooklyn's an elder, Hudson has passed on, Angela's now the second in command, because I was thinking who would be the logical second in command after Brooklyn steps down because he's older. Not Broadway or Lex, it's Angela.
Yeah.
So she's older, she's more experienced, she's a kind of a bridge builder between the two species, at least she's trying to be, and the United Nations is talking about this Gargoyle Minority Protection Act, which nobody expects will pass. And Demona has the reforged praying gargoyle, and she says, you know what, it's the Hunter's Moon, I'm going to end humanity tonight. And if I had this to do over, I might have had her come up with a different mechanism. I would have kept the praying gargoyle, but I don't know if I would have brought back the same virus, the same thing. But at the same time, I do something completely different with this. Like in the Team Atlantis episode, she brings every stone gargoyle in Manhattan to life. And she doesn't actually give life to them. They don't become flesh and blood. They're like these animated flying
kind of like the totem creatures from the episode where they visit
from Heritage.
Yeah, which caused a lot of chaos. A lot of people were killed in this, and the clan's distracted. Goliath ends up having to face Demona at this cathedral alone. Actually, though, the quarrymen are there too, because the leader of the quarrymen, who is John Castaway's son, a character I created. Well, at some point he's going to have a son, because we know that the Castaways are still leading the quarrymen in 2198, are warned by the Illuminati, specifically Fiona Canmore, who I made an Illuminatus in this, months before I found out in Bad Guys she is an Illuminatus. So that's kind of, whoa, this is awesome. I got something right.
Yay!
Warn her that this is possibly going to happen, and he says, I'm going to end, and like a good son of John Castaway, a good hunter, he knows what he's going to do, and granted, he ends up only being he doesn't end up helping much, but I kind of present the quarrymen as a little bit heroic, because they're not, but I want them to be three-dimensional. I don't want them to be the TGC versions. I mean, they legitimately think they're helping people.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you have to present that as three-dimensional, or else it becomes laughable, as we've seen in the Goliath Chronicles. So Goliath has to face Demona alone. He's 60 years older, so he's about Hudson's age at the time of Hunter's Moon. So it goes about as well as you can expect. He's really no physical match for her now. He's still tough, but he does manage. But he does manage to destroy the praying gargoyle, really destroy it, although she kind of plays a part in that accidentally. And then, as I'm writing this, I hit this moment when this is where Goliath sacrifices his life. Demona kills him, but I realize, okay, I've got Castaway's son lying here. He's kind of been thwarted by Demona. He fails. She's pissed. She's going to grab the nearest weapon. What is the nearest weapon? And there's this quarryman hammer here, and she uses this thing, and in my way, I'm like, you know what, this is perfect. It shows just how low she's sunk. She's using a weapon that's symbolically designed to kill her kind.
Right. Wow, that's intense.
Yeah, I'm planning at some point, hopefully, commission a piece of artwork depicting this, but...
Nice.
And I know who I want to commission, but she's often busy. But eventually I'll do that, because it's Corinne or nobody, because I know she would do it justice.
Nice. Now, is she the one who, I believe you have in your collection a print of a scene from the the 2009 radio play. Did she do that one too?
Yes, she did.
Nice.
So I do that, and then when I'm writing something, okay, Demona's going to escape. No, I can't have her walk away from this one. And Angela actually ends up blasting Demona from behind, knocks her out, and they end up telling the world, oh, she's dead. And the Gargoyle Minority Act passes, they end up locking her in the deepest dungeons of the castle. Angela and Demona have final words, and Angela doesn't play the big I hate you on her. It's more like, I pity you. You are your own worst enemy. Goodbye.
Yeah.
I'm putting you behind me.
Yeah.
And I got a few minutes. Oh, so are Angela and Demona going to be talking more now? Like, no, Angela's never going to look at her ever again. I'm putting you behind me, though. I don't hate you, but I'm keeping you here.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I think I ended up sort of writing this later, because someone sent me emails. Well, Demona probably escapes the next day. She's the master escapist. That's my headcanon for your fic. I'm like, nah, she doesn't get out of there until 2198 when the resistance against the space spawn is so desperate that they have to recruit her. Now, I don't know what Greg has in mind, but that's sort of in my mind what's going on there.
Okay, wow, that's intense. I'd love to read it at some point.
It's on there.
Available.
It's on fanfiction.net. It's called Rhapsody. But and then I sort of ended up writing these little Demona vignettes. And in 2198, I said, okay, I have often stated my opinion on easy Demona redemption stories. I said, okay, I'll do my version just to put my money where my mouth is. And then I reached a point, like, you know what? I don't know if I can do this because those vignettes are told from her point of view. I dived really deeply into her head and I asked myself, does she even really deserve this? And I guess the answer ultimately will be one day. It's not about what she deserves, but I said to myself, I don't think I'm talented enough to do this. And I said to myself, redeeming Demona's eventual epiphany and redemption, assuming it does equal redemption, is one of Greg Wiseman's big guns. I'm going to leave that to him.
Yeah, I mean, not to say that you're not capable. I'm sure you are, but you know, even with the silly little stories that I wrote, the whole idea is that I can't possibly besmirch Greg Weisman's masterpiece with my crap ideas. So I'm just going to leave well enough alone.
I mean, I have ideas for how it happens. I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I try not to be fan fictiony with these, like, oh, she doesn't fall in love and change, she doesn't do this, she doesn't do that. I mean, I've seen people say, oh, what Demona needs to do is be around humans more, get used to us, and that'll change her outlook. I'm like, I think she's been around humans for 1,000 years. I don't think that's the problem.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, no, it's not. I agree.
But yeah, but I've internalized that character a lot in my own writing. She's someone very fun to play with, and as for OCs, not in any of these fics really, but there is an OC I came up with later in this role play that we were doing on Form Spring. Yeah, I'm about to out myself as one of them. I just did. Which started out as this really stupid thing on Twitter. There were no real other players, and it was mostly just trying to get Boom Studios' attention to. But she would constantly tweet Boom Studios. Make a comic for me because Darkwing Duck was coming out at the time, and there were Darkwing Duck Twitter players on there doing that also. And then things didn't quite work out there, and I met a few other people who said, you know what, let's start telling some more epic stories here. None of this stupid comedy stuff, because Demona does not lend herself well to comedy, except as a straight man. I learned that the hard way, but
yeah.
And for as much crap as I gave people about writing Demona out of character, I did it there. Mostly because I was trying to get Boom's attention, but it was not the right thing to do.
Oh.
So, but we ended up, and it started out just for fun. We had no idea how far we would have ended up going with this. It started out as a sequel to that radio play, because we had characters from Spectacular Spider-Man, characters from Gargoyles. I said, okay, where would this pick up from there? This is years before the Young Justice one had just happened, but
right.
And I came up, oh man, I don't feel too good about this, but a couple of my first OCs were kind of shots at certain fanon notions that I disagree with, like the Pit crew, people for interspecies tolerance, they show up in a lot of fanfics. They were in TGS, and I'm thinking, you do realize this was a Goliath Chronicles invention, right? Why are you using this? And I said, I'm not going to use them. I said, you know what? I'm going to use them. I'm going to do my own thing with them. And I ended up turning them into this extremist Greenpeace, just as much of a problem as the Quarrymen type organization. And then, remember in the comics when Severius nearly mutated Hunter in the Bad Guys comic with gargoyle DNA just to see what would happen?
Yes.
Right.
Their leader, this woman who we ended up giving the codename Raksha to, voluntarily submitted to this, but she wanted to be part of what she thought was a superior species. She ended up having the hots for Goliath. She wanted to be Goliath's mate, and then when she found out at least it existed, she was like, oh no, I'm sorry, I don't mean to intrude. I will do everything I can to help you two be together. And she says, you know what, I'm going to do this to her. And this is my way of saying Elisa will never turn into a gargoyle. She will never want to turn into a gargoyle. And Demona found out this person existed also, and she was pissed.
Yeah.
And so this character Raksha had this plot. I'm going to hire Severius, attach this mutation to a carrier virus, a limited one, and mutate these Quarrymen. That would serve them right, and doesn't quite go off. The Gargoyles end up saving the Quarrymen from this, and Demona shows up, and Raksha immediately starts worshipping her. I did this all for you. I did this all for you. And this is a pretty brutal scene. Demona ends up tearing the tail, wings, and horns off of her before throwing her off of Belvedere Castle. Like,
oh wow, that's intense.
That's what I think she would do.
Oh no, I agree.
I agree.
Yeah. To see a human in the form of a gargoyle. I mean, she was in forgive me, it's the episode of The Mirror, right?
Yeah.
You know, when she sees all the humans turn into gargoyles, she's furious.
So that was one OC, so I killed her off pretty quickly because I tended not to keep OCs around. It wasn't until later that I ended up creating a couple of OCs that I really liked. There was a notion in my head when, okay, we know that Demona didn't want a clone of Angela. She wanted Angela. That's why she never released a mosquito around her. But Thailog in the comics has all the DNA now, and I said to myself, what will happen if she's faced with a clone of Angela? Will she see an opportunity there instead? Because there's what Demona says she'll do, and then there's what she ends up doing in the heat of the moment. And
right.
There's fan art of her. Dtana drew her. You can find this on there. I created this character who we ended up naming Cordelia, because if Thailog was inspired by Edmund from King Lear, I decided to pick another name from King Lear.
Mm-hmm.
So we took the name Cordelia, which Severius kind of gave her as a joke, but stuck because I don't think Demona is a type to willfully name her. Yeah, she named the other clones. That was to mock how stupid she thought the Manhattan Plan's names were.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if she even meant for those names to stick.
Probably not.
And so she takes back Nightstone from Thailog, although Thailog is setting her up, and she finds this Angela clone there, which she immediately orders destroyed. She tries to reach out to Angela again, gets rejected, and she says, you know what, don't destroy this thing. I'm going to program her. I'm going to make her my real daughter here. And she has Thailog colors also, because a clone of Angela would, and we end up naming this thing Cordelia, and Demona, from practically day one, treats this thing like shit. Because she says, I'm going to training to be my real daughter. She still wants Angela. This is just a replacement, and
right,
which gives Cordelia her own inferiority complex. She ends up despising Angela herself, but I can't. And I want to kill Angela, but I can't because my mother, whom I'm programmed to love, will hate me. And there's also some residual programming in there from Thailog because it's a trap in the long run, and Cordelia ends up not of her own free will, almost in a trance when the right moment comes, foiling Demona's latest plan to destroy humanity, and Demona, without hesitation, just shoots her in the chest.
Oh, wow.
Because in her eyes, this isn't a person, this is a thing, even though she... Yeah. That's how I think she would react to this in the long run. She would see an opportunity, not a daughter, because she wants Angela by her side, the real Angela.
Mm-hmm. Right, makes sense.
And then there was one more, who I originally created for TGS. It technically started out as a TGS character, but then TGS ended before things could be done with her. I mean, she appeared in one or two stories there, but before the master plan with her would have really gotten going. But I ended up completely reinventing the character from scratch, putting her through the prism of what we've learned in the comics, what we've learned about the Illuminati, as a character named Tamora, who I've named after the Shakespeare villain from Titus Andronicus. And in TGS, all she had in common with her was the name and the fact that she would have ended up being a villainous character. Mm-hmm. And an alliance with Thailog kind of in the Aaron the Moore role, which I ended up keeping, but in TGS she was from another clan, which they reached out to. It's just another random clan, which was a more villainous clan, which I later realized, you know what, this is a bad idea. You can't have an evil clan. So I said, what am I going to do with this? I mean, with this character, what clan do I place her in? And then I realized in TGS she ended up making the moves on Goliath and then the moves on Thailog, and I said to myself, you know what, I don't want to do that. That's what Demona's for. You don't use a fanon character for something that you have a canon character for. That was a lesson learned. And so we were talking and said, wait, who did Brooklyn get to know before he met Katana and his time travels? Where did she come from? And then I had the name Tamora, which was and the character from the play was the Queen of the Goths, and they were from like 5th or 6th or 7th century Germany. And I said, okay, Brooklyn met her on his time travels, and may have gotten a bit serious with her at one point, and but obviously it didn't work out because she's completely ruthless. Things happen to her, and she has a vengeful streak also, but unlike Demona, she feels she got her revenge back then against one specific person, but she did some very horrible things to get there. Which, if you read the play, you can figure out what she did and what she suffered. But and I said, okay, but how do I bring this character into the present day? And someone asked, Greg, is Thailog the only gargoyle member of the Illuminati? And he said, spoiler request, no comment. And then I realized, okay, that's the license I need. She ended up being an early recruit into the Illuminati. So I think we made her a 4. So she's not 3 and up or the upper echelon. She's just on the outskirts of that. But and her mission in present day is to bring the Time Dancer into the Illuminati, because that's a resource they would want to have. Brooklyn so far won't do it, and we haven't continued that in a very long time. We've all been very busy in real life, but that was the basic idea. And as for what happened to her, I still haven't quite worked this out, and how she got her revenge and why she's over her revenge. If you read the play, the Romans ended up slaughtering the gods, and they brought Tamora back in chains along with her sons, one of whom was sacrificed to Zeus. And then she ended up marrying the Roman emperor and using this to get her revenge, and she ended up having Titus Andronicus' daughter raped and had her tongue cut out and her hands cut off so she couldn't identify her killers. And then Titus got revenge on her later by killing her 2 sons who did this to her daughter and feeding them to her in a pie. And in some form, I haven't quite figured out exactly how, because obviously these aren't her biological children, this happened. Which is why Brooklyn did not stay with her.
Yeah, it seems a little self-destructive there.
A little bit.
But she got her revenge, she's over it, so she doesn't want to destroy humanity. She believes in the Illuminati's visions for a better future. But there you go, that's what separates her from Demona. But this is pretty R-rated. I mean, Greg at one point said that Tamora from the play is a Gargoyles character in the making. I have no idea what he has planned in mind. I mean, maybe he'll use the character as she is a human, but that's what I wanted to do. But yeah, those are my 2 big OCs.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I get a bit intense with them, but I love that sort of thing.
Well, hey, these guys, they're our babies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, more or less.
But yeah, so there may be a couple more, but those are the big standouts for me.
Okay. Well, cool,
the fact that I might not remember the others says something. I mean, sometimes you just need a throwaway character.
Yeah, no, I hear that.
But yeah, like I said, never create a character when there's a canon character you can use, and there was no one I could have used who Brooklyn may have met who would have been an old flame during Time Dancer.
Yeah, well, there you go. Now, I do know that you attended Convergence this year. Would you like us to give you your opinions on that?
I loved it. I couldn't stay for the last day because I had to catch an early plane, but mostly because Susan Leonard was paying for my hotel rooms, and I didn't want to add the extra day on top of that to her. This was my choice. It wasn't her. But I said, you know what, you're already doing this for me. You're paying a big, expensive bill, and I cannot add another couple $100 to this. I just can't. And
it makes sense. Honor roll.
Yeah, and Susan, if you're listening, I really appreciate this.
That was so generous. Wonderful.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the whole idea of, as Jen was saying in our previous episode, the fandom, really is a family.
Yeah, she didn't have to do that.
And yet she did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it was terrific. I had a great time at that convention. I got to meet some people. I've got to meet new people, reconnect with old people. Meet someone who I knew for a while who I was able to convince when they finally met me in person that I'm not a monster. I realized I had a way of coming off online. Like, you're much more amicable in person. Like, this is the way I usually am. I'll say extreme statements, but you don't hear my tee-hee tone on the internet.
Right.
Emotions are very hard to read on the internet.
It's very true.
I mean, yeah, I'm sarcastic. I don't deny I've been a jerk, because usually when people come in the past, I don't do this anymore, because at one point Greg asked me, why do you engage with these people? I said, you know what, if someone comes in the station or whatever being a jerk, I don't need to say anything to them. Whatever, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really post too much anymore in there. Anyway, sometimes I will if I have something to say or if I like the conversation. But yeah, that's Convergence was terrific. I loved that radio play. I played myself once again, just like I did in the last one. And this is a long story. For those of you who want to hear it, Greg tells the whole story. We just recorded the latest episode of Spectacular Radio with him and Jen a few nights ago, and he tells his story, so it'll be available there, and he tells it better than I do.
Well, I'll be sure to listen to it.
Yeah, I'll post it when it's out. We have we're recording again on Wednesday with Vanessa Marshall, who's the voice of Mary Jane Watson on the show.
Oh.
Ooh.
So I'm really looking forward to talking to her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of your own, I don't want you to go too deep into your personal history, but obviously Gargoyles had an influence in what you do for a living. How did that all come about? Did you always have an idea idea that you wanted to go into film and such, or did Gargoyles really suggest that to you?
What I do for a living, that implies I've been paid.
Well, I didn't want to, be...
Well, I was 13 when it aired, and 14 when City of Stone hit and made a profound impact on me. I guess on some level, I always knew I wanted to do that, but I wasn't quite sure. I didn't actually, for a long time, I didn't have the courage to try out for that. I just didn't. I graduated from high school, went to a local college, took a smorgasbord of things, didn't quite know what I wanted to do. I was thinking political science for a bit, but...
Oh, wow.
Let's put it this way. If I had to sell my soul to either Hollywood or Washington, D.C., I'd sell my soul to Hollywood. At least in Hollywood, we only hurt ourselves.
Very true, yes.
But yeah, even though people tell me, you would have made a good lawyer, you're always going to find loopholes. I'm like, if I were a lawyer, I would have become like Saul Goodman from Breaking Bad. I don't think any of us wants that. and I hope people get that reference.
I apologize, I don't, but that's only because I haven't watched Breaking Bad, which I know is also evil.
Yeah, he's the epitome of the sleazy lawyer. He's very good at what he does, but he's the epitome of the sleaze. He's crooked. He's wonderful, though. He's a great character, and he serves as a comic relief on that show at the same time in a show which is so dark it needs it. But no, I didn't want to do that. But I was in business school for a while. I said, okay, I'll just end up in some middle management job I hate somewhere. And then I eventually said, no, I don't want to do this. I want to go to film school. And I went to Full Sail for about a year in Orlando, Florida, which didn't quite work out because they told me they had certain programs there, which they didn't. Like, I went on writing and producing and not setting up lights. It's important to know that stuff, but they didn't really have that. So I went to Los Angeles Film School instead, which had a major in screenwriting and a major in producing, which I ended up majoring in for both. And I had a good time, although, to be honest, it hasn't really quite helped me out there because Full Sail ended up buying it at some point, but nobody in my graduating class is working.
Well,
and I don't know if that's because the job placement section there they have is bad, although they haven't really helped, but it's also a very difficult industry to get into. Very difficult.
Oh yeah,
I believe it.
And I have connections in the biz, and even there it's hard. Even there it's difficult, and I'd rather not go into that because I don't want to give people any ideas. So. But it's a very difficult industry right now. Though I've just recently acquired my first paying gig as a critic, just last week actually.
Oh, would you like to tell us about that?
Yes.
It doesn't pay much. It only pays a few bucks per post, but it's how you start. And I got that post after this gig after they had read my review of the Blu-ray, which I got a complimentary copy of. I didn't get paid for this, of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 1. And people were like, this is such a professional review, such a professional review. And I'm thinking, it's professional? Did he miss a paragraph where I said I'd rather drink bleach than watch more? But I guess they'd say, well, you presented your opinions articulately, you stated where you came from, you actually had stuff to say. It wasn't just a hate-filled rant. Anyone who knows me knows I've had a hate on for this show since practically it started. I was very excited for it. I love the Marvel movies, but then this show aired, and I was thinking, the first episode, that's okay, and by the time I got to the fourth episode, I really don't like this, and I quit at episode 6, and then I was told, after Captain America Winter Soldier came out, it got much better. It didn't.
I watched the entire season. I figured it was primarily, Agent Phil Coulson, Clark Gregg, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's the be-all, end-all. That's really the only reason why I was watching that. The other characters, they one-dimensional, two-dimensional, but, they're doing the best they can with what they have. They're not... I'm saying they're not horrible. I've seen horrible, and I wouldn't necessarily consider them horrible, but are they, Emmy Award-winning...
If anyone wants to check out my thoughts, they're out there. We're not going to hijack this podcast to talk about that. I don't like the show.
And hey, you have every right.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our opinions.
Back to Gargoyles.
Back to Gargoyles. The one that really we can all agree on. That is awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see, but I've worked on several other gatherings after 2003. After 2003, I'd said, I'm never doing this again. And I ended up working on 2006, 2008, and 2009. I worked in promotions for those last 3, and I ended up having to police a few people there because sometimes people come to these. People listening, 99% of the fandom is awesome. Actually, more than 99%, 99.99999%. But occasionally, you'll get these people who just don't know their way around, and we had at least one at these. More than one at times. I mean, at 2006, we had this individual who went to the Vegas gathering. That was a different staff, and they didn't really do much to rein him in. He bothered quite a few people. At 2005, he kept wanting to present his fanfic ideas to Greg because he thought my ideas were so awesome, they're too good for fanfic. And he told me his ideas. I'm like, you're ripping off the anime Full Metal Alchemist.
Are you kidding?
Oh boy.
Yeah, and so at one point we had to create a wall of fans between him and Greg because he wouldn't take I don't listen to fan ideas for an answer. Right. But they didn't. The staff didn't really do much to rein him in there, and so he had a good time. He decided to come back to 2006, and we were the staff of 2006, and we weren't going to deal with this. And and he walked around. I mean, he would ask questions. Is it true that Tom Adcox is gay? Is it true that Tom Adcox is gay, and that's why Lexington is gay?
Wow.
And that's only that's just the tip of the iceberg.
I can imagine. Yeah.
We had the mug of gas, which you can only sign. The rule was you can only sign up for 2, so that the same core people don't monopolize all of them. And he signed up for every single one of them.
Oh, lovely.
So we had to cross his name off of most of them, and we definitely crossed his name off of Brigitte Bacos because we wanted her to come back. She didn't come back, but that's because there were scheduling reasons. She was always working, and Brigitte was really cool. But and there were points where he would go to every panel. He would ask questions that had nothing to do with the panel. Like he would raise his hand and be like, "Greg, who's your favorite Transformer? Or who would win in a fight, Xanatos or Megatron?"
Okay. Wow. Interesting.
And
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yes. And at one point, he wanted to cut in line for the special guest sign. The voice actors had their table set up, and he tried to cut in line, and Jen saw this, and she said, go deal with this, go deal with this. And I'm standing in line, and I'm telling him, look, you need to get in line like everybody else. And he wouldn't do it. He got very nasty with me. And the third time, I said, it's like, look, if you don't get on line, I'm going to take your badge away and kick you out of the convention. And then he's like, oh, all right. And he gets online, and I'm told later he called his mom and started crying. This guy was in his 20s.
Oh my!
Wow!
And by this point in the convention, people stopped calling on him at the panels, and so he was upset about that. And I
think he actually told me, no, they're not calling on me anymore. Because I had, this was 2006, I had engaged Keith David in conversation because I had just discovered CSI at the time, and I engaged him in conversation about his role in the CSI episode Random Acts of Violence, and just getting his opinion on animation versus live action. And that was a fascinating conversation. And I think he was sitting right next to me, and he groused that he wasn't called on. Like, well, this is only my second convention, so if you've gone to others, maybe they're trying to get other people to have their turn and stuff.
Yeah, and the funniest part is he goes up to Greg Wiseman and he complains about me, and Greg says, look, I'm just a guest, I'm not a member of the staff. So then he goes up to the hotel staff and complains that Greg Wiseman's not listening to him.
He's a piece of work.
Yeah, and there were other issues there. I know at some point they got a hold of Jen, and Jen refused to apologize for her staff doing her jobs. And thank you, Jen. You're an awesome con chair.
Oh, she's beautiful. I love her.
So, because granted, we were treating him like everybody else. I mean, if he really had these issues, and his mother should have been with him through the entire convention to make sure he didn't behave this way. I mean, I'll admit, I kind of feel bad for him because it seems to me like she was very irresponsible and she allows him to behave this way.
Yeah, or, he may have an official diagnosis, but still, that doesn't...
Well, we didn't know that.
No, I'm not saying that he does. It's possible that he does if he's in his 20s and acting like this. I mean, I have my own diagnoses, and I've worked with children and adults who have diagnoses, and it's kind of been part of my life, so I kind of know what to look for and such. But yeah, it doesn't excuse the fact that he still behaved this way.
Yeah, and we had and then in Chicago we had someone who was kind of like that, a bit younger, but he caused a little bit of trouble also. I mean, he went to Corinne's panel, and she was passing around her comics as examples of her work, and I was sitting there, and he stuffed them into his backpack. He just stuffed them into his backpack. He didn't pass them on, and
oh, bummer.
At one point, she asked, "Where are my comics? Are they being passed around?" And he doesn't say anything, but the entire room just ends up pointing at him.
Oh wow!
It was like it was like something out of a sitcom, and then he takes them, and then he takes them out and he passes them onwards and afterwards outside after the panel was over. Because I wasn't going to. I saw him do this. I wasn't going to interrupt her panel to call him out on this. Afterwards, I walk up to him and say, "Look, next time ask before you take them." And he almost gets physically violent with me at one point. I put my hand on his shoulder to get his attention there, and he just and good Lord, this guy was just
wow.
And he claims he didn't know he was stealing them. He thought he was allowed to take them.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
But yeah, sometimes you have to deal with certain people at these conventions. Just about everybody is great. I mean,
oh yeah.
I mean, it was stressful at times. I mean, it's a hard job, but it was rewarding. I'd do it again.
And we love you for it.
Thank you. There are so many people who've done way more than I did. I mean, Jen, Patrick, Corinne, so many people. I mean, and it's just, I mean, it was great. It was a great experience. I enjoyed working with these people. I enjoyed being able to work with the guests. In 2009, Rebecca and I got to be Marina Sirtis' bodyguards during this because we didn't know everybody online and want to make sure that she gets treated with respect, because it took us years to get her to come, and we wanted to make sure she would have a good time. Even though it was the last gathering, we wanted her to have a good time, and she ended up having a good time because, like Jen said to you guys last time, if she didn't have such a good time at the last gathering, I don't think she would have come to Convergence. Right. And she loves us now.
Yay!
I mean, it took doing to get her to come to us, but she loves us now.
Yay!
Yay. She seemed like she was having a good time at Convergence.
She was. I mean, I've met her 4 times. The first time I met her was at MegaCon, then I met her at the second gathering. Then I met her a year ago at Kineticon, and I mentioned, I was sort of one of your 2 security guards for the gathering, and she ended up giving me a free autograph because of that. And
aww.
She didn't have to do that either, but she's very nice, and I think she's going to be at New York Comic Con next month. They haven't announced her on her official site yet, but on her personal site she says she's going to be in Manhattan on those dates for a convention, so I'm thinking, what else could it be?
Right. What other conventions are there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I commissioned a piece of artwork, which I think will be done by then, as sort of a thank you for being so gracious and nice to our fandom. Piece of artwork. It's not finished yet. It'll be posted after she receives it. I want her to see it first.
Cool. Well, we look forward to seeing it as well.
Yeah,
we do.
Yes,
May we ask who you commissioned of it, or is that information?
Definitely. Oh no, Mara Cordova.
Awesome. She does good work too.
She just did a commission for me, and I have yet to post it, but it is marvelous. She does amazing work.
Yeah. The gathering is a rewarding experience, and despite everything, I mean, there were some bad moments also, like particularly when we announced it was ending, and I get a lot of people were disappointed and wanted to know why, but people could have conducted themselves better. But when people ask me, do I miss the gathering, I say desperately.
Yeah, I hear you.
It was always one of the highlights of my year. I made a lot of great friends through it, and
yeah, same here. I mean, granted, I didn't get to go to anywhere near as many as you did, but the 3 I went to, it just, I know I've said this before, but the happiest times of my life.
Those are the 3 California gatherings, right?
Yeah, because like I said, curse my financial ineptitude, it was just a hop, skip, and a jump for me.
It's expensive. I mean, going to Convergence actually was one of the most expensive plane tickets that we've ever bought, especially for Middle America. But it was 4th of July weekend. I get that, but
oh yeah.
I was thinking, couldn't they schedule this any other time? But you know what? There was nowhere I would have rather been.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Nowhere. I mean, my only regret about that is certain people who I wish came and didn't. I mean, like Revel and Space Baby weren't there, and they made it to most gatherings. Siren wasn't there, and
bummer.
A lot of people I wish were there and weren't. Then there were people who were like, hey, Greg. I'm like, who are you? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, it's been 5 years. And there are people you have like a short conversation with who aren't close friends of yours, but they're acquaintances, and I felt bad for not recognizing some of them.
It happens.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Now, curious, I know in the past, during the chat room heydays and stuff, there were a whole bunch of I guess you'd call them fan clans out there, like Emanon and Mini Clan. I think there was the Gargoyles and the Can Clan. Were you a part of any of this, or were you kind of out of that?
I was out of that. I didn't really join any specific clans. I had my group of friends. Some of them were in these clans. Some of them weren't. But that was enough for me. I had people I chatted with on AIM, and who I still chat with. Sometimes the little chat has mostly moved to Facebook nowadays. I
Who uses AIM anymore?
I do to talk like 2 or 3 people. That's about it. And
okay.
Mostly I use Skype. I use Facebook chat. I mean, I'm friends with Robbie Bavard, and he ended up coloring the last 6 issues of the comic book. But I knew him back when he was just a fan artist, and I remember when he first told me, "I got to draw Katana. I got to design Katana."
Nice.
Ooh.
He must have been happy about that.
Oh, he was, yeah. And I remember he told me, the last page of issue 10, Greg, you're going to love it. You're really going to love it. But he wouldn't tell me what it was. And the last page of issue 10, well, you saw me. I unfurled this huge poster at the gathering for them to sign, this huge poster of Demona. He printed that out for me as a custom job because he still got the original DPI files since he colored those comics. That's how I was able to get it.
Oh,
wow, that's
awesome.
amazing.
So he did that for me, and I think at some point we're gonna. It's a bit pricey because those are huge posters. We're gonna do one for Greg, I think.
Aww.
Oh, he'd like that.
Yeah, he would. He's. I don't know if he has any space for it. He's got a lot of fan art and posters, and that poster right now, my big Demona posters, directly behind my head, where I'm sitting. I'm turning my head now. I'm looking at it. I've got Marina's signature on it. I got that at Kineticon. Greg signed it this year. Greg Guler signed it, and Frank Parr signed it, and Robbie signed it before he sent it to me.
Nice.
So thankfully I don't have to take it out of this frame ever again.
Nice.
Because I've had this thing for about 4 years, and I keep saying, "Oh, I hope it doesn't tear or anything." And I was very nervous about bringing it, and I wanted to bring also that custom Demona figure that I commissioned from Anthony's Customs, but I had no way of getting it there without it breaking, especially considering how fragile the hair on the figure is.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've never even touched its head. I've never touched the hairs. I'm afraid to.
Gotcha.
He told me not to, and when you lift it, I always lift it by the wings. The wings have been glued or drilled on there. I'm not entirely sure very well. Yeah,
I've seen his work. He's amazing.
Yeah, I remember at one point I was thinking, I was having a chat with someone, it's a shame the Kenner figures weren't good. To be fair, they were also made in the mid-90s. Figures haven't evolved to the point where they are now. And now, and on a whim, I said, okay, custom action figures commissions. I said, okay, I'll take a look. I'll see what's there. And I found his site. This guy's pretty good. I'll message him, see if this is possible, see if I can get a quote. And he first responds back, I'm not entirely sure if I can do it. And then a day later he says, you know what, I think I probably could. I figured out which parts I would use. And he gives me a quote. And I say, you know what, I'm going to do this. And I send this thing, and I hope I don't regret this. I've seen a lot of custom figures out there, and I'm not quite sure what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting something anywhere near as on model as what I got.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I've seen his YouTube videos. He's done a couple. I think he's done Bebop and Rocksteady from the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. Yeah, and the amount of detail he put into those is just it's phenomenal.
He does a lot of this. He does a lot of Marvel characters, DC characters, original characters. And I was so happy with the Demona. About a year later, I commissioned Macbeth and Robin Cantmore the Hunter. And they're on my shelf over here right now. Really happy to have them. And I'll commission more when I can afford to.
I hear that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've got plans, I've got ideas. We've been talking about armored Xanatos for a very long time. Steel Clan armor.
Nice. I do look forward to that, considering the only Xanatos armor I have in my collection is the one where he isn't wearing the helmet so much.
With, like, the flip-down visor?
Yeah, the flip-down visor.
Yeah.
Is that the one that's gray?
I think I have him in
red one.
the red armor.
They re-released it in red also. That one is much rarer. I've got that, but it still doesn't look all that good. It's not on model.
No.
They were Kenner was working from older character models, which is part of the reason why the figures look that way. I've seen this old character model of Xanatos' armor, which looks a lot like that. That wasn't what they used for the show, thankfully. But
yeah.
And if you check the Garg Wiki pack page, there's older models of them that look like how they were drawn in the Marvel comics, which explains why Jackal has that cape in the comics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so the licensors weren't sent the final character models. That's kind of what happened there. Although I still don't know why the hell Xanatos has a purple jacket and black hair and beard in most merchandise.
I've seen that. It's like a purple smoking jacket. Well, actually, I have one because he came with the Roadster, and it looks like he has a little like velvet smoking jacket on. I don't know.
I have that figure also about 15 years ago. I just took out a paintbrush and painted the jacket gray because I couldn't stand to look at that. And I don't know as good as this guy, as Anthony is, but it was a major improvement. And then I painted the hair and beard brown because, again, I couldn't stand to look at that.
Right.
I don't know where it is. It's in some box somewhere. And I'm not going to need it soon anyway.
Right.
Now, I know we touched briefly throughout our conversation about your opinion on the fandom, but would you like to expand upon that?
I love the fandom. It's my second family. I really don't know what else to add to that. I mean, like in any family, occasionally you'll have your disagreements and squabbles, but it's a great fandom. I mean, I've looked into other fandoms. I've got friends in some other fandoms, but nothing like this. Nothing, not even close. I mean, in fact, I've looked in some fandoms. I'm almost embarrassed by the behavior there. I mean,
oh yeah.
For example, you go into the Transformers fandom, and the moment a woman shows up, they're like, "Oh, we've got a girl here. We've got a girl here," and I'm thinking, I'm in the Gargoyles fandom. More than half of them are girls.
Yeah, you could argue that I'm a fan of Transformers, especially with what IDW has done with the comics, but I've pretty much stayed on the outskirts of that fandom. I mean, I look at the TF Wiki, I read Short Pact, I love that guy's work, but yeah, I'm nowhere near as involved in any other fandoms as I am in Gargoyles. I would argue that I'm not involved in any other fandoms.
I've been involved with Spider-Man, but there's a podcast that I used to listen to called Crawl Space, which I'm not recommending you guys listen to now. It's sort of been Goliath chronicled, except that the person who runs it decided to place priority on one member over others, and this member was not what I would call a real contributor, i.e. he's openly racist, and he is the only one in the world who doesn't seem to be able to see that.
Oh dear. So
that led to some problems there, but one of the former panelists there, though he's still a part of that site, Zach Joyner, he runs SpideyDude.com, and he asked me at one point, "Hey, do you want to do a Spectacular Spider-Man podcast?" And I said, and I was like, I don't know. It took him about a month to convince me, and I said, yeah, okay, sure. And then we started talking about it. Then I emailed Greg and said, look, we're talking about doing this to be free to come on for an interview. And he said, hey, I'll come on every month with you guys.
Nice.
And so we've been going. I mean, the Blu-ray just came out, and he said he would have loved to have done audio commentary, but Sony didn't have the budget for it or didn't ask him to do it. So we're going through this episode by episode, delving deep into them. So we're giving you guys what Sony wouldn't.
Nice.
I think in the long run we'll only have 52 episodes. We do 2 episodes per show, or 2 shows per episode.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's about my only other fandom involvement, and I love Spider-Man, even though I'm not really reading the comics now because I think the comics have turned to crap years ago, and
cough one more day, cough.
Yes, Spectacular Spider-Man was the last real Spider-Man thing I enjoyed. I'm not a big fan of the live action movies either. I mean, like I said, if there are 2 kinds of fans: those who accept anything if it's printed, if they have the label printed on them, and those who are critical. If we ever get a Gargoyles movie, I will be one of the more critical ones. I mean, I want a Gargoyles movie, even if it sucks, because if that happens, well, there will at least be more attention on the property, and Disney will want to exploit it more.
That's true, yeah.
So the way I see it, even if they make an awful movie based on the show, they'll still want to exploit the property more, and maybe that'll give Greg a chance to tell more stories.
Right, which is the ultimate goal that anybody has, especially Greg.
Yeah. So I'll tolerate an awful movie if that happens. I mean, what I won't tolerate is this, which I don't think we need to worry about it anymore. This not a Gargoyles movie that Disney had in development a few years ago. We haven't heard anything about that in a very long time. I think it's in development hell. That's usually a good sign. It's in development hell, but we'll see. There's been no word, and also now.
And that was the impetus for your Facebook group, Make a Real Gargoyles Movie, Disney. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes, it was, and we have about 1,500 members, and
wow.
Now that it's no longer a thread, I wanted to change the name of the group, but once they have a certain amount of members, they don't let you change the name of the group for some reason, so it's stuck. I mean, it's still a good place to have discussions, but I
sure it never gets made. So
yeah, I think it
that
serves
brings us
its
to the
purpose
end of our
also.
podcast.
I mean, then again, we could still get a real movie
and we
made.
hope
I have
to
no
see you
idea.
here next time.
But 90s nostalgia is starting. I mean,
bye everyone.
I'm seeing a little bit more and more of it. Hell, they just said they want to do a Married with Children spinoff, so who knows?
Oh, what?
They did. Married with Children.
Oh my god.
Well, and they had talked about doing a second Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah, then Robin Williams passed
away. Yep.
Yeah. May he rest in peace.
Yes.
And, yeah, I mean, right now, in an ideal world, what I think will happen, I think if we ever get another show on the air, Gargoyles 2198 is our best candidate. I mean, it's set far enough in the future that it would have the least amount of baggage.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'd love to see the comics continue. I know that's a pipe dream, but...
I think it's more likely than a new TV show, honestly, because comics are much cheaper to produce and much easier to produce, but we'll see. I mean, I still have some hopes.
Yeah. I mean, heck, we finally got Season 2, Volume 2 on DVD, and that wouldn't have happened if people weren't, calling in and saying, I want it.
Making noise, yeah. There were a lot of efforts done by a lot of different people to get Disney's attention. There were campaigns on Twitter, email-ins, phone calls, a lot of things going on. Everyone had something different going on. I mean, I'm not going to say any one method did it or any one core group did it. I think we as a whole, as fans, did it.
Right, because, enough of us started roaring, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
I want it now. Shut up and take my money.
Yeah, it took 8 years. We got it.
Well, look at it this way. It could have been a lot worse. How long did Duke Nukem Forever take to come out? Let me see. They first quoted about it in 98, and then it came out, 2011, 2013? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait.
It could have been worse. Disney could have kept ignoring us.
Exactly, yeah.
Exactly.
We've been listened to.
Yeah, but now is a good time to be a fan. Greg Weisman's been doing his 20th anniversary tour. He's been to, I don't know how many conventions, but he's been to a lot. He's been traveling around the country, going to a lot of conventions. I mean, he's got Long Beach Comic Con going on. I mean, I wrote to New York Comic Con and asking them, hey, can you guys hold a panel there? San Diego had one, and I'm not holding my breath, especially this late in the game.
Yeah. But hey,
It would have been great. That's where the show took place.
Yeah, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah, but I'll be happy if I see Gargoyles cosplayers. I mean, there was apparently a Demona cosplayer at New York Comic Con 2 years ago, but I didn't see her.
Oh.
And there's about 200,000 people. This thing, it's easy to miss people.
Understandable, but I believe there were photos going around of it was Elisa and Goliath. Were they at Convergence, or am I?
Elisa, Goliath, and Demona were at. That was at Denver Comic Con when Greg was there.
Gotcha.
He was there with Greg Guler, he was there with Marina, he was there with Jonathan Frakes and Vic Cook, and am I missing somebody? Oh yeah, Sally Richardson. Don't want to miss Sally Richardson. Someone else who, sadly, we at the gatherings have never been able to get.
Oh.
Although she almost went to the 1998 gathering, but she ended up having to do a movie in Vancouver, but she sent a letter, and I video recorded this, Greg reading the letter. It's on my YouTube account.
Oh.
I'll send you guys a link.
Cool.
You can post it, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
And, but yeah, I miss it desperately. I mean, when I first attended my first gathering in 1998, I had no idea this would be something I would continue going to, especially when I found out the next one's in Texas. Oh, I'm not going to make that. Ended up making it.
Exactly, yeah. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, I've only missed two. I missed the very first one, and, I think I was 16 when the first one hit, and at the time, the internet was still this new thing, and certain family members of mine weren't exactly crazy about me going someplace to meet a bunch of people I met off of the internet.
Yep.
But the internet was so new, and there were still horror stories at the time about people meeting people and getting raped or killed, and...
Yeah. I remember those stories. I remember the conversation/arguments I would have with my mom.
Yeah, and the $100 admission for the first one, which seemed like a lot of money to me at the time, but now I realize it really wasn't.
Yeah.
But, I mean, when you're 16, $100 is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Sure.
But I would have gone anyway, but again, the family issue is why I didn't. But my family's actually been very supportive of it since then. After I went to 1998 and I came back with photographs and realized, okay, these people aren't complete lunatics. Yeah, we are. No, we are. I'm one of the alpha lunatics.
But we've developed various coping mechanisms so that we can interact more or less as a productive member of society-ish.
Indeed. Well, most of us have. I think the people I've mentioned earlier. I mean, I hope they do. Wherever you are, if you guys are listening, I wish you well. I hold you no ill will, but you've got some growing up to do. But we've all at some point had some growing up to do, or still have some growing up to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yes, I will certainly not argue that I do not have to grow up anymore. I am, oh yes.
In some ways, I think this is a good time to be a fan. I mean, yeah, we don't have as much fan fiction or fan art as we did anymore, and in some cases I'm okay with that. I mean, I wish there was more fan art, but fanfic is a bit of a double-edged sword. I mean, there are times when I still have to remind people, Sada is not a canon character. Like, well, I thought, no, that was fan fiction, and for a long time, because TGS was very loosely based on what they thought was Greg Weisman's master plan, and people thought that he was officially involved, or they had notes from him, and it's not. I mean, the most they did was some of his spin-off ideas and a couple of ideas, so they went in their own direction, which they're allowed to, but
yeah,
at the same time, Damona's a villain, and that's how I like her, damn it.
There you go.
I finally said it. And I was going to make her a villain again before things kind of just dissolved.
Aww.
Of course, I'm the guy who wrote her clocking Angela in the face.
Oh, jeez.
That was, yeah, back then, yeah, but maybe I went a little bit too far there, but...
Well, we all have our, quirks and vices. Well,
yeah,
like I said... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm saying, but she's a fun character to write. Sometimes it's hard to write her because I have to go to a very dark place internally to write her.
I hear that.
The hardest character to write, in my opinion, this goes back to the fanfiction, is Xanatos, because you're writing a character who is so much smarter than you. Thalog is also, but Thalog is a bit easier because Xanatos has a much different temperament than I do. I mean, I wish I had Xanatos' temperament. I wish I was that cool and collected all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when you think multidimensional, oh wow, yeah.
Most of the villains are, even Thalog to a certain extent. I mean, I know someone who said, I don't like Thalog. I think he's a really horrible take on the opposite of the hero, the negative of the hero. And I'm like, if you think he's bad at being that, that's because that's not what he is. He's the bastard son. He's not Negaduck. He's not the evil twin. He's Mordred. He's the evil son.
Yeah.
I mean, he's never been. Yeah, he's not the evil twin. I mean, some people don't seem to quite realize that, even though I think the show kind of hit people over the head with a hammer. This is what he is. This is what he is. He's Goliath's evil son. I mean, Double Jeopardy makes a huge point of that.
Yes, most certainly.
It does.
But people interpret things in their own way. I mean,
oh yeah. Agree to disagree. Don't kill each other, except in violent video games and all that fun stuff.
Violent video games. I mean, there was I remember at a 2005 gathering, there was a panel entitled Demona Debate, and I didn't go to that. I was going to, but then I ended up chatting with some friends, and I kind of wish I went to that because I bet it was spirited, and I know I would have had a lot to say.
I can imagine, yeah.
I mean, she's one of my favorite characters, not just in Gargoyles, but in all of fiction. I mean, I'm not going to say she's probably the greatest character ever conceived, but she speaks to me in that way. I mean, she's very multidimensional. She's right out of Shakespeare. She's right out of Russian literature. I mean, Dostoevsky would have had a field day with her.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Because she could have so easily been this typical villain. I want to destroy humanity, but she's more than that. It's a lot of that is her very on-the-nose guilt issues. She won't blame herself. She won't acknowledge her culpability, so she externalizes it.
Right. Yeah. Which is textbook psychology lesson right there.
Yeah. I mean, I remember in the TGS days, someone and I had a debate like, well, Demona knows that Elisa's not a bad person. She sees Elisa as the exception to prove the rule, and I'm like, go back and watch that scene and listen to Marina's performance there. Her voice bristles. She's forcing herself to say that to get Brooklyn on her side because she knows Brooklyn likes Elisa. Mm-hmm. She was lying there.
Yeah.
Or who knows, maybe she wasn't, because maybe on some level she knows Elisa's not what she thinks of humanity, and Elisa's living proof that Demona is wrong.
Which she could never admit.
Yeah, which she won't admit, and that's probably another reason beyond just the jealousy, why she wants to wipe Elisa off the map. I mean, Greg was asked a few years back, and I love this. He was asked, who does Demona hate? Out of this list of people, who does Demona hate the most? And Greg says, I'm not going to quantify something like hatred, but if I were to, and he put Elisa at the top of the list, over the hunters even.
Oh, yeah. Wow, that says a lot about her state of mind.
Yeah, it does.
Elisa doesn't even want to kill her.
No.
Maybe to protect herself, but not, she doesn't spend every minute of every day thinking about ways to kill Demona.
No, I'm sure Demona spends a lot of her time thinking about how to kill Lisa specifically.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I mean, just Damona's got issues. That's one of the reasons why I love her so much.
Yeah.
And she's my favorite character, but I also don't make excuses for her. I mean, I know that there's some fans out there who feel like I can't like the villain, so in their minds they kind of whitewash them a bit. I mean, a lot of fans have latched onto when they read their fan fiction the events of the Reckoning, and I love the Reckoning, but I'm like, guys, I do realize Angela saw Damona a few weeks later, and Damona nearly wiped out all of humanity. Hunter's Moon happened, guys. Hunter's Moon happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
And even then, even when her plan was foiled, she still threw that vial up into the air to cover her escape. And while she probably knew Goliath would catch it, she had no guarantee. That was still a massive risk she was taking with all life on Earth.
Right. Yeah. If I can't take you down, what if I'm going down, you're going down with me?
Mm-hmm. And one of my biggest regrets about the comics cancellation I've got a lot is that we never really got to see the next Damona story. I mean, yeah, we saw her in the past when Brooklyn went into the past and met 997 Damona, but I want modern Damona. I want to see what's going to happen next.
Yeah, that was a huge disappointment. I mean, I know nothing could be done about it, but I was hoping that there would be more Damona.
Oh, I was too. We all were. At the same time, though, I'm glad Greg didn't force her in there early and
Oh, absolutely.
with his plans, because a lot of times you'll see in comics like, hey, Venom is a popular character. Let's put him in the book all the time. Let's put Wolverine in every book. I mean, yeah, Greg knows Damona is a popular character and has a very large fan base inside the fandom, but he didn't force her in there early to placate those people. He told the story organically, which I think is the right thing to do. So,
oh, absolutely.
Did I want more Damona? Yeah, but I wouldn't have traded anything else we got to get there, because when she comes back, I want it to be in a story that's organic and it's right for the character, not, hey, here's Damona, here's fan service.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I like about Greg. He doesn't do fan service in the purest sense of the word. I mean, he stays true to the story. He respects his fans, but he stays true to the story.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why, I mean, Disney owns Marvel right now, and a lot of people say it'd be great if Gargoyles integrated with the Marvel Universe. I love the Marvel Universe, but no, please no, because I do not want Marvel editorial getting a hold of these characters, because they would do a lot. I just fear so much of what they would do to, Goliath and Lisa's story is impossible love, so they really shouldn't be together, and even though they are now in the comics, and I'm thinking, no, you're not going to do this. And Damona, she would show up because she's popular, she would show up when she shouldn't, or they would redeem her because she's a female villain, and that tends to happen to female villains in very inorganic ways. I mean,
yeah. Hopefully Disney will, keep the universes separate.
I think they will. I don't think Marvel has any interest in it. I mean, I know there's one editor over there who was a fan. I was told by a friend of mine who met this editor at some kind of convention. She was asked if you could integrate any Disney property into Marvel, what would you pick? And she said, Gargoyles. I would love to edit Gargoyles. I love that show. I love the sentiments, though, and hey, maybe one can hope maybe Marvel will publish a Gargoyles book that doesn't take place in the Marvel Universe. You can do that.
That would be awesome. I'd like to think that, with the various storylines that Marvel has done in the past, they would, if they were to obtain the Gargoyles license, they would treat it with the respect that the fans hope that they would treat. That they would hope would, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, the thing is, the two universes are very incompatible. I mean, look at time travel in Marvel and look at time travel in Gargoyles.
Right.
I mean, one of the big reasons why I stopped reading X-Men over 10 years ago is because the time travel made no sense. I mean, even in the cartoon they did, in the 90s cartoon, which is one of the reasons why Gargoyles time travel rules is such a breath of fresh air. I'll never forget this. They did this four-parter in one of their seasons where Apocalypse is erased from the time stream at the end entirely, but nothing changes. Archangel is still Archangel, and I'm thinking, so what happened here? What did you do? Did you think of consequences of this? So that's why Greg's rules of time travel make me so happy. I mean, ugh. Yeah, you've got to think about these things. Of course, it's no surprise that the same people who ran the 90s X-Men show were also brought in to story edit and write Goliath Chronicles.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but I've gotten a bit of a reputation as an anti-Goliath Chronicles hardliner.
Well, I would say just about anybody would be. I mean...
Yeah.
We watched the Goliath Chronicles when it was on, what was it, that one Saturday morning ABC stuff?
Yeah, I remember being so disappointed, and yet I stuck with it, and looking back now, I probably wouldn't have. I mean, I've reached a point where, and I will thank Dexter for this, if a show goes bad, you don't have to keep watching it.
Yeah.
You can drop it, but at some point you get invested, and I at least want to see if it gets better. I think Goliath Chronicles were all hoping, maybe this episode will be the one where it gets better, maybe this one.
And we were sorely disappointed.
Mm-hmm. And I remember, Damona's finally here.
Yeah, I hear that.
I mean, there's so many things wrong with that episode. I mean, although the biggest thing is, it's not Damona working with the Quarrymen that bothers me so much. I think she's stupid enough to try it. But it's the Quarrymen working with her that bothers me. The other way.
Yeah, definitely. It's so contradictory to what their quote unquote mission statement is.
Yeah, and you have that invisible assassin at the end says, "Destroy the gargoyles. I have lived for this moment." Who are you?
Like, do you have some kind of immortality spell going on or something, or did you get did your car blow up or something?
You could have been Evil Vinny back from Japan.
he had to deal with the issue one too many times.
Oh, can you believe it? You blew up my motorcycle. You cost me my job. Now I'm going to become an invisible assassin and kill you. The pie wasn't enough.
Well, I'd say that's about wraps it up. Did you have any questions or suggestions for us, or anybody you want to shout out to that you haven't yet already?
Oh, there's a lot, so many people to shout out to. I mean, people like Jen, Patrick, who really kept the gatherings going. People that I've worked with, people like Revel and Space Hippie, Aaron and Mara. There's so many people out there. It's just so many people. I mean, Susan Leonard. I mean, just about everyone who's been a concher or worked on the gathering staff. I mean, so many people have done so much to keep this show and this fandom alive. Mm-hmm. I mean, there isn't any one person who the fandom really coalesced around and who I think speaks for the fandom, because we're a very diverse fandom. I think I still think we're one of the best fandoms out there. We may be a smaller fandom, but we're a great fandom. I mean, despite some of their rivalries, there's drama, but at the same time, like I pointed out before, we're not wanky like some other fandoms. We don't send death threats to people. We don't.
No, we're actually smart, or
we're sane. I mean,
yeah, there you go.
Marina Sturgis at both Gargoyles conventions. I've seen her at the Gathering and Convergence. Was always amazed at the intelligent questions she has received. Now, I don't know which else she's gotten, but I guarantee you she's been just really happy she wasn't asked, what was it like to work with Sir Patrick Stewart? What was it like wearing that costume for the 100th millionth time?
Oh, yeah. I remember when she said that at 2009. I was like, "Aw, I got hit right in the feels. Mm-hmm. I'm intelligent."
Yeah, then she threw Jolly Ranchers at Craig Wiseman. That's on YouTube. Look for it.
I most certainly will. Is it on your
No, not on mine. It's actually, there's a direct link to it on Marina Sturgis' Gargwiki entry. I posted it there, but I thought it was hilarious.
Okay, then I am totally looking at that.
But yeah, just such a great fandom. I mean, not everyone in this fandom may personally like each other, but that's the way it is with any family. I mean, be honest. You like every one of your relatives. If you say yes, you're lying. I love this fandom. I love most of the people in it. And even the people I don't, many of them contributed something in some way, or a lot or a little, and it wouldn't be the same without them either. So I thank you guys as well.
Aww. Well, Greg, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on our podcast. I think this would be the longest podcast we've had, second to when Lisa and Carell and Charles got to interview the two mics, which I sadly was unable to attend. But, I hope in the future that we will have even longer podcasts with even more commentary and even more insightful discussions, because that's smart. We're smart.
Yeah, I was worried that I wasn't going to come up with enough material, and they say this is the longest one, but...
Well, that brings us to the end of our podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we hope to see you here next time. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye everyone. Bye.